at 87. Energy radiation corrosion level 3. Residuals still above threshold. Purifying radiation. The chief physician's voice was cold and focused. Purification failed. Inject high-concentration stem cell regeneration solution. Injection complete. Radiation corrosion level 2. Nanobots ready. Deploy carbon substrate. 80 grams. Stimulate. Left ventricle showing rejection reaction. Stay calm. Normal. Double the stabilizer. Deploy carbon substrate again. 125 grams. Do not stop cardiac blood supply repair. A beam of bluish light descended from the top of the pod, precisely scanning Rachel's damaged skull, attempting to stabilize his collapsing brain waves. Neuron link successful. Stimulating awakening. No response. 3 deployments of carbon substrate, 200 to 250 grams. Suddenly, the calm brain wave activity spiked sharply. Stimulation successful. Good. Begin repairing the base, grafting reflex nerves. Inside the medical pod, Rachel's remaining left eye suddenly opened wide. Blood vessels forming a red ring. The pupil neither confused nor dazed. In that eye, after the initial 0.01 seconds of physiological defocus, a nearly tangible fierce light erupted, containing both extreme pain and raging fury. His mouth twitched, his incomplete body convulsed in the nutrient solution, instinctively struggling as if trying to break free from the cage that sustained his life. Inject neuron calming agent, 60 milligrams. The voice was steady, without a hint of panic. The powerful drug was injected instantly, and Rachel's struggles gradually subsided, but that left eye remained wide open, the pupil shrinking to the size of a pin, burning with a madness that could not be extinguished by medication. Neural bridges fully grafted, viability diagnosis stabilizing. The green leaf left the drone's surgical operation table and casually tossed it aside, her movements carrying a hint of barely perceptible fatigue. Behind her stood Lady Sulla, Wanka, Sayla, Rank, and other high-ranking members of the Red Devils. Oh, and Kareem, who was staring intently at the bubbles at the bottom of the medical pod. They had been huddled in their lair for several days, with Lady Sulla taking charge during this time. She slowly stepped forward, her gaze not falling on her husband, who had just been pulled back from the brink of death, but rather on the green leaf, her eyes sharp like a poisoned knife, revealing no concealment of murderous intent. You did well. The chief survived, and you played an indispensable role. The green leaf maintained a calm expression. It's my duty, my lady. Duty? Lady Sulla chuckled lightly, the coldness in her eyes unyielding. Just like your mother did back in the day? Adhering to her responsibilities as a courtesan? The green leaf's body stiffened imperceptibly, her fingers at her side curling slightly. My lady, she is her, and I am me. Lady Sulla walked closer, stopping in front of the green leaf, so close that she could see the trembling of her eyelashes. Her gaze swept across the green leaf's pale, yet still exquisite face, finally landing on her inherited green eyes. Lady Sulla leaned in slightly, her voice lowered. Do you know? During your absence, that woman was tormented day and night by my people. Your medical skills are excellent, but my chief physician is no slouch either. I made sure she could neither live nor die. These words struck like a vicious curse, chilling to the bone, piercing deep into the green leaf's heart. She felt her blood boiling in an instant, the suppressed anger causing her breath to momentarily stall, her vision beginning to blur. However, the green leaf quickly suppressed her emotions, the turmoil in her eyes calming down. At that moment, the pod door opened. Lucius approached at the right time. My lady, the Mamba has been dealt with as per your instructions. Lady Sulla paid no mind to him, her satisfaction evident as she watched the green leaf's momentary shattering of calm. Day and night torment, in ways you cannot even imagine. Lady Sulla extended her finger, adorned with delicate lace gloves, in a manner almost sacrilegious, her gaze akin to admiring a glass artwork about to be crushed by her hands, lightly brushing against the green leaf's cold cheek. After all, the methods I used to serve men back then were quite effective. I'm merely letting her review a bit, while also collecting some interest. The green leaf remained expressionless. Humph. Lady Sulla retracted her hand, as if it had touched something filthy, elegantly wiping her fingertips with a handkerchief. Dr. Greenleaf, no matter what means you employ, the chief must awaken within 30 minutes, or I will kill you. Understood. The prison chamber was devoid of the humming of advanced medical equipment, only a cold, dead silence filled with the scent of blood. The Mamba was suspended in the center of the cell. 2 thick steel chains pierced through his shoulder blades, hanging him in midair, his toes barely touching the ground. Blood flowed along the chains, pooling into a thick, dark red puddle beneath him. His arms were bound behind his back, locked tightly with magnetic handcuffs. The skin around his wrists torn and raw, exposing white bone. His face was covered in bruises and cuts, with 2 swollen eyes barely open, yellowish fluid dripping, murky pupils, and cracked lips, breathing weakly. The prison door opened. Thin light flooded the dim cell, outlining the grand figure at the entrance. Lady Sarah walked in, followed closely by Lucius. The Mamba raised his head with difficulty, murky light seeping through his swollen eyelids, his throat rasping. Mamba, you really live quite lavishly, Lady Sarah observed with a cold gaze. In the Battle of Blackwater Bay, the great chief nearly lost his life. The Crimson Prison, Wildfire, Iron Maiden, Blood Oath, and Gallows were all sunk by the Black Sail pirates. Such heavy losses. Do you know who is responsible? It's you. You let Fengling enter Blackwater Bay. And at the most critical moment, you were negligent. Lady Sarah stopped in front of Mamba, her gaze sharp as a knife, piercing into his murky pupils. You should know Scott's fate. The door opened again, and two members of the Devil Squad dragged in a naked, battered woman and threw her on the ground. Her body was covered in whip marks, burns, and bruises, with hardly a patch of intact skin, evidently having undergone a brutal interrogation. She curled up, emitting suppressed whimpers. Lady Sarah glanced over and spoke lightly. Tell me, what was your captain doing at that time? I won't kill you. This woman was Mamba's personal female officer. She opened her mouth, but her words were unintelligible. One of the devil guards lifted her, a large hand like a fan struck her hard across the face. Did you lose your voice overboard? A sharp crack echoed. The officer's head snapped to the side, blood mixed with shattered teeth splattering on the ground. Mamba's swollen eyes opened a tiny slit. The officer struggled to raise her head, her eyeball already ruptured, trying to reach out towards the barely alive Mamba hanging in midair, her broken fingers leaving bloodstains on the floor. My lady, she managed to prop herself up, using all her strength, her voice hoarse and intermittent. The captain was tracking the Crimson Soldier, Yangxiang. With each word, it seemed she expended all her energy, blood continuously oozing from the corner of her mouth, dripping onto the cold floor. Lady Sarah listened quietly, her expression unchanged. Give her some medicine, wake her up. Yes. One of the devil guards took out the essential combat drug, stepping heavily on the woman's now emaciated back, injecting a needle into her neck. Ha ha ha. Lucius stepped forward at the right moment, presenting a tube of transparent white liquid, respectfully saying, My lady, this is Dream 7. Dream 7, a neuron-inducing agent, colorless and odorless, will obey any command from the controller within 72 hours after administration. Lady Sarah looked over, her eyes narrowing slightly. Lucius humbly bowed, his head lowered, the lenses reflecting a faint white glimmer in the thin light. She nodded slowly. Another Devil Squad member, seeing this, immediately took over, replacing his syringe's drug with Dream 7, injecting it into the officer's neck. In the condensed air, only the sound of blood dripping remained. The woman's originally pained and vacant gaze was suddenly replaced by a strange clarity, as her shattered nerves and brain were forced to function. She no longer curled up in pain. The grotesque wounds on her bare body seemed to have nothing to do with her. A stiff curve slowly formed at the corner of her mouth, resembling both a smile and a cry, completely turning her into a living puppet forcibly awakened by drugs. Lucius stood beside her, holding a miniature controller that flickered with a ghostly blue light. Now, tell me, what was the captain of the Mamba doing at that time? The adjutant's head turned slowly with a mechanical stiffness, her neck emitting a faint clicking sound. Her lips moved, and her voice was no longer hoarse and broken, but instead sounded electronic and devoid of emotion. The captain was pursuing Yangxiang. Each word was crystal clear, yet chillingly devoid of humanity. Lady Sarah frowned slightly, gazing at the Mamba with a glint of coldness in her eyes. When the Mamba returned, apart from this adjutant, everyone else on the bridge had inexplicably vanished, replaced by unfamiliar pirates. He had also destroyed the data core of the Steel Tooth's bridge, claiming it was damaged in combat. The oddities and hastily buried traces could not escape so many watchful eyes. Lady Sarah took a deep breath and said slowly, Say it again. The answer is yes or no. During the pursuit operation, was the Mamba toying with a slave girl? In her mind, everything had already been shattered by the drugs. Her pupils completely vacant, her lips weakly moving. Lady Sarah leaned down, straining to listen, and that voice was as faint as a mosquito yet clearly reached her ears. Pursue Yangxiang. Kill her. Without any hesitation, a member of the Devil Squad stepped forward and crushed the woman's spine, her broken body instinctively twitching. Then, he drew a pulse pistol and pressed it directly against her bloodied forehead. Just as the pulse round was charged for firing, the adjutant's vacant pupils faintly moved, not focusing, yet seemingly penetrating the cold, heavy prison walls, catching a glimpse of a distant, warm homeland. A barely audible whisper escaped her lips, going home. Bang. Chapter 73. Bait stopped pretending to sleep. A familiar call echoed in her ears. On the medical bed, Lu Ling slowly opened her eyes, her pupils slightly constricting as her vision gradually focused from the blurry shadows, revealing a metallic ceiling radiating soft white light. How do you feel? That familiar voice rang out again. Lu Ling turned her eyes, seeing Qing Ye sitting beside the medical bed, clad in the signature pure white uniform of the chief medical officer, with sharp lines that perfectly outlined the mature woman's voluptuous figure. Her slate gray hair was pinned behind her ears, revealing a smooth, full forehead and a long, cool white neck. A few unruly strands fell by her cheeks, adding a touch of languid charm. At that moment, those green eyes stared unwaveringly, the depths of her pupils reflecting his pale face, but deeper still, it seemed as if an icy layer was silently melting, revealing a barely perceptible understanding. I'm not pretending to sleep. I actually fell asleep. Lu Ling shook his head and sat up, still feeling a heavy sense of dizziness. Damn. The medicine produced by the Tian Snake Group is too strong. The X substance is indeed something used by Omega people. Greenleaf slightly leaned forward, resting her arm on the edge of the medical bed, propping up her cheek and staring at him with a lazy gaze, seemingly lost in thought. A unique, cool fragrance quietly enveloped Lu Ling's senses. He felt a bit uncomfortable and subtly shifted back, showing a hint of disdain on his face. Greenleaf leaned closer again. Even nearer. Hey, what are you doing? Don't come any closer, or I'll call for help. TSK, Greenleaf scoffed, rolling her eyes. Stop pretending. This place is very safe. Lu Ling chuckled, stood up from the bed, stretched his wrists, and surveyed the surroundings. Is this Rachel's lair? TSK, quite cold and eerie. Rather fitting. He then looked back at Greenleaf, his gaze becoming more assertive. Suddenly, Lu Ling noticed a dark red badge with a metallic sheen pinned on her chest, depicting a skull with devilish horns, with black flames burning in its hollow eye sockets. He recognized the badge, the chief emblem of the Crimson Devil headquarters. TSK. So you're the chief medical officer, huh? Looks like you're doing quite well here with Rachel, Chief Greenleaf. Thanks to you, I've secured my position. Greenleaf provocatively puffed out her chest, and Lu Ling awkwardly shifted his gaze away, feeling it was too flattering. He was afraid of falling into that white trap. It seems you executed our plan beautifully. Lu Ling sat across from her, his tone shifting from playful to focused and serious. Back then, in the engine room of the Night Orchid, he was merely testing this woman. It would be better if she accepted, but if not, he would implement the backup plan. Greenleaf fell into a daze, recalling their conversation. Before entering Blackwater Bay, in the noisy engine room of the Night Orchid, you wouldn't betray Feng Ling. Why would you do this, selling my information to Rachel? Of course, it was to make you the bait. Only you understand, and you can also modify the jump engine. Plus your identity in the Earth Federation is invaluable, making you prime bait. Bait? Feng Ling's new plan. Damn. So you sold me out like this, how honest of you. Can't you see? We are all her pawns, used and then discarded. Perhaps she is willing to pay any price to kill Rachel. To kill Rachel? Isn't she the leader of the Crimson Devil? Yes. Deep grievances? Deep grievances. Then why are you here looking for me? I'm just a mechanic. Soon I'll have to help Feng Ling with the dirty work and be that damn bait. Of course, it's because that night I invited you to my room as a guest, but you read it and didn't reply. So, I had to take the initiative to find you. Hey. Don't come so close. My Zavina will get jealous. TSK. You trust me that much? I do. You have an agenda. I do. What is it? Mother. I want to save my mother. She is being tormented by Sarah, every day, every minute, every second. I don't believe you. Suit yourself. I have a plan. I have a plan too. Then I'll follow your lead. It may not be a very good plan. I'll listen to you. Alright. I want you to tell me one thing. Is the person behind Rachel Wanbei? Probably. Before we picked you up, the Navy of Wanbei just released us. Feng Ling said it was Rachel who pulled some strings, very powerful. So let us assume it is. I'm telling you, that's the real big fish. Where do we start? Money. Is that all? Feng Ling has money too. What does her money have to do with me? The moment this transition engine is installed, I want to see a penny again. What do you need so much money for? To buy fruit. How can I get stronger without buying fruit? Fruit? Shoo. Don't be curious, it's against the rules. Trust me, we need to get involved, take the initiative, stir things up, and figure out Wanbei's details. No need to investigate. Their strength is unquestionable. I understand now. You want to sell the transition technology to Wanbei. Why not? They have money. Lien told me about that black steel company. What is it called? Something like Mother Flower, Sam Kua, the top mechanic in Blackwater Bay, a shareholder of Black Steel Company. Chief mechanic, starts at 1,000,000 star coins for a calibration. Only 1,000,000? With my skills, a few billion wouldn't be excessive, right? A few billion? But the space capsule engine is only one. Without a space capsule, transformation can't happen. Who said there's only one? This thing isn't worth much in our Earth Federation. Do you have companions? Did the Earth Federation Navy send someone to rescue you? You really have a vivid imagination. I have a system. System? I said, stop asking. Everyone from Earth has one. Aren't you pretending to ally with Rachel? Here's the thing. Let us play along. You take me to Rachel, and I'll use him to connect with Wanbei. Going directly might get me killed by Wanbei. I need Rachel to raise my value a bit. How do we connect? I just said it's not a very good plan. Then it's hopeless. Feng Ling is going to kill Rachel and Sarah this time. Hiss, is this woman that ruthless? Then I'm in danger. Everyone is tight-lipped, too passive. I'll help you. Can you come back alive from Blackwater Bay? Come back alive? I can't say for sure about anything else, but this is a small matter. No one is better at surviving than me. I'll always come back alive. Always go anywhere in the universe. Then you'll be the bait. Come back alive. And I'll help you connect with Rachel. That's more proactive than getting caught by him. Good. In exchange, you need to help rescue my mother. Not really, right? Are you sure she is still alive? Wasn't she in Feng Ling's original plan? No, my mother has no value. Alright, I'll help with that. That doctor. Greenleaf. I've said it before. Feng Ling can't be trusted. She treats all of us as tools, uses us up, and then discards us. Wouldn't it be better to stick with me? The future is bright. You don't need me. Your genes are stable, better than mine. No, I need you. I really need you. Very much. Not just for the genes. Really? Really? Someone's coming. Zoena, bring me my belt. You might actually consider my proposal. At that moment, the sincere look in Lu Ling's eyes was something Greenleaf would never forget. Chapter 74 Lucius Hey, beautiful, what are you thinking about? Lu Ling waved his hand in front of her. Greenleaf snapped back to reality, a fleeting, breathtaking smile gracing her lips, which made Lu Ling momentarily taken aback. I was thinking about you. Her voice carried an elusive tone. You can't tempt me, Lu Ling said with conviction, then got down to business. What is the situation with Rachel now? Greenleaf pondered for a moment, seemingly weighing her words to ensure the information was accurate. He almost died in the shattered star whirlpool. Fortunately, he had the golden blood amber with him. Otherwise, your jump plan would have been jeopardized. Golden blood amber? Lu Ling frowned. He had heard this name vaguely. It was quite valuable in the black market at Blackwater Bay, reportedly originating from a biotechnology firm fully controlled by the Zhuangbai family. It was a life-saving drug that could keep someone alive for 30 minutes as long as their brain and heart hadn't failed completely. Rachel took 3 of them and managed to hold on for over 50 minutes until the Mamba Snake's people found him. Such an amazing drug can be taken in multiples? Lu Ling was a bit surprised, stroking his chin in thought. It seems he really gained a lot from being with Zhuangbai. This extremely precious life-saving drug was already rare in the black market, and at Blackwater Bay, it was auction-level valuable. Rachel taking 3 at once must have been a special provision from Zhuangbai. Should I thank the Mamba Snake then? Greenleaf did not deny it, understanding the implication behind his words. Rachel being alive was their only stepping stone to contact Zhuangbai directly, and also the best proof of Lu Ling's value. I've already informed Feng Ling that Rachel is not dead. With her personality, she won't let this go easily. Lu Ling was used to it. What is her plan this time? All plans are the same. Eliminate Rachel. I suspect she is gathering the Blood Alliance and Black Sail fleets for a direct confrontation with the Red Devil. I'm just not sure about the gathering location. Greenleaf's voice was steady, devoid of emotion. This was her last chance. A confrontation? This woman has some skills. The Blood Alliance and Black Sail combined must have at least 40 ships. Lu Ling had to admit that Feng Ling was meticulous, with execution capabilities far beyond ordinary people. This was no longer about revenge. She aimed to completely destroy the Red Devil, even if it meant launching a full-scale pirate war. In fact, we don't need to worry about her plans, because the final battlefield will only be here. Lu Ling pointed at the ground beneath him and asked meaningfully, just as you said, Feng Ling is gathering the pirate fleet. This secret is known only to you, right? Of course, I've been cooperating with her for a long time. What do you mean by that? Our goals are different. What we need to do is stir the waters. There's no way Rachel is without Zhuangbai's spies around her. We need to leak the information to him. Lu Ling fell into deep thought, feeling a bit of a headache, but determining who the spy is poses a problem. Otherwise, we might end up in trouble. Greenleaf observed his frowning expression without answering, propping her cheek up and scrutinizing him closely. I have to say, after genetic optimization, you look even more handsome. Looking at her languid posture, her beautiful figure outlining an enticing and voluptuous silhouette, Lu Ling felt a subtle movement in his throat. It's not that I'm lecherous. It's just that the flowers are blooming beautifully. If I don't take a moment to appreciate them, it would seem unappreciative. I need to think of something. Time is running out. Lu Ling took a deep breath. At this moment, he had to be a Sigma man. No need. The green-leafed figures slightly parted their lips. I know who it is. Who? Lucius. Just then, the door to the room slid open silently. A man in a dark silver high-collared uniform walked in slowly, his steps precise as if measuring the floor, each footfall landing perfectly in the gaps. His silver-white short hair was impeccably styled, and his expression was as stern as a classical sculpture, with a high nose adorned with a pair of gold-rimmed holographic glasses. The gaze behind the lenses was calm and unwavering, as if capable of seeing through everything. He also wore a badge on his chest, similar in style to the Greenleaf figures, but with slightly different patterns. Chief Strategist of the Crimson Devils, Lucius. Lu Ling's gaze shifted slightly, observing discreetly, and he noticed bloodstains on Lucius's shoes. Lucius's gaze first fell on the Greenleaf figure, giving a slight nod, accompanied by a formal tone of respect. Chief Greenleaf. Lady Rachel's bodily foundation has been restored, and her vital signs are stable. You need to go and awaken her. His voice was gentle, devoid of any emotional fluctuations. Understood. The green-leafed figure stood up, secretly giving Lu Ling a glance, their lips moving slightly. Lu Ling instantly understood. At that moment, Lucius turned his attention to him. Their eyes met for a brief moment. The look was not one of scrutiny, but more of confirmation. Chief Mechanic of the Crimson Soldiers, Sir Lu Ling. I've long heard of you. Lucius stepped forward, extending his hand voluntarily, adopting a humble posture. Lu Ling, however, maintained his composure, reaching out to shake hands lightly with Lucius. The other party's hand was dry and strong, with a genetic level that was undoubtedly high. You're too polite, Counselor Lucius. In the medical room. To be honest, seeing Rachel in such a state for the first time in the medical pod was slightly shocking to Lu Ling. Her body was in ruins, covered with new granulation tissue that was visibly proliferating at an alarming rate. In her hollow eye sockets, a new eyeball was forming, lacking focus or light. Yet it remained wide open. One could never know when she had already awoken or if she was secretly observing everything. The green-leaf figure was performing the final operations on the medical control panel. Lady Suroff and Wonka were not present, apart from Lucius, whom he had just met. Lu Ling did not recognize anyone else in the room. He quietly observed. There were several individuals with striking appearances. One of them stood nearly 2 meters tall, looking more like a beast than a human, with gray-white short hair standing rigidly like steel needles. On the left side of his face, 3 jagged parallel scars stretched from his cheekbone down to his jaw, making him appear exceptionally fierce even without expression. What impressed Lu Ling most was his right arm. An advanced mechanical arm entirely made of black metal, which occasionally contracted slightly, emitting a nearly inaudible low hum of metal engagement. He looked nothing like a human. Rather, he resembled a piece of powered armor. Lu Ling felt he had seen him somewhere before, but couldn't recall where. Another individual was over 2 meters tall, with a small piece of glass embedded in the top of his skull, which was empty inside, and his gaze seemed rather dull. The last figure stood in the shadows, appearing middle-aged with a thin and pale complexion, his eyes always half closed. The others around him were nothing special, looking fierce but unable to hide their nervousness. Lucius stood quietly to the side, like a perfect backdrop, his gaze hidden behind glasses, lingering subtly on Lu Ling. Hey, newcomer, haven't seen you before. Who's your boss? A large hand rested on Lu Ling's shoulder, its 5 fingers resembling mechanical structures, with dark alloy revealing some circuitry. Lu Ling frowned, finding the mechanical hand rather crude, carrying the scent of oil and sweat. Before he could speak, Lucius's voice rang out just in time. Kareem, be respectful. This is an esteemed guest. This immediately drew the attention of dozens in the room. The giant named Kareem responded with an unmistakable dullness in his voice. A guest? So small. Feels like I could crush him any time. Lucius shot a glance at Re-Ink, who silently stepped forward, pushing Kareem aside. Though shorter than Kareem, Re-Ink exuded a strong presence with his robust physique. Lu Ling recognized him. He was the former captain of the Crimson Fong, known for his iron fist, mentioned by Bloodshark before. Unexpectedly, he too had betrayed them. Why did he think too? Lu Ling suddenly glanced at the shadow of Greenleaf. She was the chief medical officer of the Crimson Soldiers, and he was the chief mechanic. Re-Ink was at least the 3rd or 4th in command. Goodness, with this, there were hardly any high-ranking officials left among the Crimson Soldiers. Feng Ling, oh Feng Ling, you have lost the people's trust. Kareem, having been pushed aside, looked at Re-Ink with a hint of fear and a touch of disdain, but he quieted down. The medical room fell back into a suffocating silence, with only the cold hum of instruments, the sound of liquid flowing through tubes, and green leaves tapping on the control panel. She activated the last neural stimulation unit, and the low humming rose a notch. Rachel's body was mostly repaired, but to Lu Ling, it still looked terrifying, one side plump, the other thin, an extremely unbalanced proportion. At that moment, within the medical chamber, Rachel's only remaining left eye slowly opened. The bloodshot eyeball began to focus after an initial physiological adjustment, no longer filled with rage, but appearing sharp and calm. The eye scanned the room, pausing on Lu Ling for a moment. Greenleaf, Rachel's voice emerged. With no movement of lips in the medical chamber, it was directly transmitted through neural signals to the equipment. Report my status. Greenleaf continued her operations, her tone calm, as if she were indeed a professional physician. Vital signs stable. Neuron connection stability at 100. Energy radiation has been completely cleared. Core trunk repair at 90. Cranial defect fully repaired. Full recovery is expected to take another 72 hours. The report was concise, precise, and devoid of any emotional tone. Rachel listened quietly. Very good. Continue to maintain, she said. Lucius. Yes, my lord. Lucius immediately stepped forward, his posture respectful. You all go out. I need to speak with this guest from the Earth Federation in private. Rachel's single eye slowly moved to Lu Ling's face. Chapter 75. My Count Father, you still fell into my hands. Didn't you, Greenleaf? Or is it rank? It should be rank, right? Lu Ling casually remarked, noticing the emptiness of the space, which lacked even chairs. It seems I did not give birth to this son for nothing. Huh, do you have many sons? Yes, countless. Then I should address you as a stud. Oh, what do you mean? At this moment, Rachel was surprisingly calm. A stud, in our Earth Federation, is a term of respect, referring to someone who is exceptionally capable in a specific aspect, like having many children. If you work meticulously and professionally, you would be called a workhorse, revered by many. Cases like yours, meeting both criteria, are exceedingly rare, akin to a phoenix among chickens. And you could be called a bull stud. The full term is bull beating hulas. Though it sounds awkward, it is a formal term from the ancient texts of the Earth Federation. A high-level title that can be understood as such. Lu Ling had researched these archaic terms, finding no records of them in the Parthian Empire. Sage. Well, that indeed fits me. Whether in childbirth or other aspects, I am quite impressive indeed. Do you know why I captured you? No. Lu Ling quickly interrupted. Just a reminder. I came here voluntarily. It's tough to mix with Feng Ling. Oh, ha. You have foresight. Feng Ling will only treat you as pawns, if you're of no use. She will discard you without a second thought. Rachel laughed heartily, but Lu Ling glanced at the calm, plump face in the medical pod, feeling an indescribable unease. He didn't intend to chat any longer, secretly gripping the detonator green leaf had given him, speaking steadily. You went to great lengths to invite me here. Was it at the request of the people behind you? You are quite clever. A person from the Earth Federation, a major engineer of a battleship. I believe no one in the Empire can resist such a temptation, especially since you modified the jump engine of the Night Orchid to exceed its original operational limits. He didn't have a full understanding, and Greenleaf certainly couldn't reveal everything. He didn't tell Rachel that the Night Orchid had been fitted with a new jump engine. Lu Ling had already guessed this, and of course, it was also his core objective. All right, that's fine. You can make the call now. I want to talk to him. Aren't you afraid? Do you know who they are? Rachel's tone seemed to carry an inherent fear. I was a bit before, but now I am in a hurry, please. Bull beating hulas, I really need money. Feng Ling is going too far. After all the hard work in helping to modify her jump engine, she only gave me so little. Sometimes, one just has to perform, regardless of whether others believe it. Sure enough, this statement successfully shifted Rachel's focus. As soon as Feng Ling was mentioned, her voice could not suppress her anger. Feng Ling. She will die for taking what she shouldn't have. Exactly. Lu Ling added fuel to the fire, then quietly waited for her to vent. I am not interested in the grievances between you two. Time is tight, and you need to rest. Can we speed this up? Rachel fell silent. Lu Ling's expression remained unchanged as he gripped the detonator in his palm, his thumb resting on it. This was the final measure he had arranged with the green leaf. If anything unexpected occurred, he would blow Rachel's head off and then escape like a lumberjack. Can you say some good words for me later? A few compliments? Yes. Lu Ling let out a sigh of relief. In fact, he was unaware of the intimidation the Zhuanbei nobility held over the locals. Among Rachel's group, they were the kings with absolute power. In their universe, it was only as large as Zhuanbei. Moreover, they also knew that the world beyond Zhuanbei was not as beautiful. In a luxurious reception room, the air was filled with a hint of bamboo and wood incense, fresh and familiar, with a touch of the morning chill at the edge of the forest. The carpet beneath was soft to the touch, the walls covered in deep-colored velvet, adorned with classical oil paintings depicting interstellar wonders. Lu Ling settled onto a wide, soft sofa, where two almost transparent, graceful female attendants approached him. They had lovely faces, gentle gazes, and held trays filled with glistening liquids and exquisite snacks. Light-footed, they knelt beside the sofa and placed the trays on the low table, then looked up with their watery eyes. No need, you may leave. At that moment, Lu Ling had completely transformed into Sigma, his gaze frighteningly calm. The two attendants were slightly taken aback, but immediately bowed their heads in obedience, rising and retreating with light steps. As he watched the soft, white backs of the attendants leave, Lucius respectfully closed the door. An opulent silence enveloped the room. Lu Ling leaned back on the sofa, closing his eyes, attempting to sort through his chaotic thoughts. Feng Ling, Rachel, the Red Soldiers, the Crimson Devil, the Blood Alliance, the Black Sail, and the upcoming meeting with the Zhuanbei nobility. The journey had been fraught with various power struggles and deceit, forcing him to tread carefully. The world was complex, and he had only glimpsed the tip of the iceberg. The paths to wealth were too narrow. He recalled the first time he met Feng Ling. How cautious he had been, her gaze seeming to see through the facade, playing completely by her own rules. Now, he wondered if the Zhuanbei noble he was about to meet would be similar to her. However, Lu Ling was already prepared with all his countermeasures. In fact, Greenleaf was right. He had become a qualified actor. The reception room was filled only with Lu Ling's faint breathing, the incense slowly wafting through the air, making the atmosphere even more tense. Time passed without him noticing. Suddenly, without warning, without footsteps, and even without the sound of the door sliding open. The holographic starry nebula curtain on one side of the room rippled like water, the scene quickly reorganizing and coalescing as a figure slowly emerged from the halo. This was an extremely high-quality real-time holographic projection, almost indistinguishable from reality, with even the movement of hair and the subtle shine in the eyes clearly visible. A rarity in the world of pirates. The person who appeared was very young, with a handsome face and perfectly proportioned features, looking to be in their early 20s. The attire bore no insignia but was extremely noble and dignified, clearly specially prepared. Lu Ling raised his eyes. Black hair and black eyes. A descendant of the Longhua people from the Earth Federation? Longhua. It should refer to Huaxia, Lu Ling thought to herself. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Parker from the Zhuanbei family, the first heir of the Peisha Empire, and my father is Count Zhuanbei Clun of the Empire. Parker's words flowed smoothly. Each pause perfectly timed, neither awkward nor overly eager. Lu Ling felt a slight surprise. She had initially thought there was only a powerful noble behind Rachel, but it turned out to be the hereditary son of a count. If nothing unexpected happens, the entire Zhuanbei will belong to Parker in the future. I have long admired your name, esteemed engineer of the Earth Federation's Dela-class battleship calibration. I knew you would come and have been waiting for a long time. Lu Ling quietly waited for him to finish. I am very interested in the Earth Federation, especially the Longhua civilization, which I have long yearned for. And that Dela-class battleship. How does its power compare to the Empire's starships? Lu Ling knew Parker was testing him, but it seemed quite normal. Very strong. The Empire's current technological level is far behind it. Parker nodded. The Empire has gone through many twists and turns to restore itself from the ashes. And much of the cultural heritage of the Silver Shield Star domain comes from the relics of the pioneers. I heard you have been in slumber for 60,000 years? It should be so. For me, it was just a nap. Lu Ling did not deny it, as he himself had yet to clarify the truth of his crossing. Can staying up late really lead to crossing? Then you are a great and noble descendant of the pioneers. Parker's tone became increasingly respectful, his expression serious and solemn. He had unknowingly put on white gloves and was holding a delicate and ancient box. This is a relic discovered by my Zhuanbei ancestors thousands of years ago in a sleeping pioneer site. Most of the information in the relic points to the ancient Longhua civilization, but we have never been able to decipher the core treasures of the pioneers in this site. Lu Ling narrowed his eyes. He knew the main topic was coming. Parker carefully took out a piece of ancient jade, one corner inlaid with gold, and continued, I believe that as a Longhua person, you will surely recognize it. Saying this, he slowly turned the ancient jade, presenting the bottom to Lu Ling. Lu Ling's pupils constricted. What the hell? No way. Mandated by heaven, may it last forever? The jade seal of the first emperor? Although he could tell at a glance that it was a later imitation, the jade quality was lustrous rather than ancient, yet in this interstellar age. It was indeed quite Huaxia to still play this game. Parker's gaze was sincere, and his demeanor humble. But Lu Ling knew that the other party was much more difficult to deal with than Rachel and Fengling. This move was a test of his cultural background. Fortunately, Lu Ling was a genuine Longhua person. Parker's move hit the mark and presented him with an easy question. This is the Imperial Jade Seal, with the 8 characters, mandated by heaven, may it last forever, which translates to whoever possesses it can become emperor, commanding the starry seas and ensuring the nation's eternal prosperity. I see. Parker suddenly understood, his eyes becoming restrained, and he promptly placed the jade seal back properly. He skillfully redirected the topic without probing further. Respecting the descendants of the pioneers, Your Excellency. Lu Ling. Parker's tone shifted to one of apology, expressing regret for having left you in such a filthy place and being troubled by rough pirates. It was my failure to host you properly, but fortunately, we meet today and you are safe, with the guards I arranged on their way. When they arrive, I will personally welcome you and see to your comfort. Lu Ling's expression remained calm. He neither agreed nor refused but stated directly, Parker, we have an old saying in Longhua. A gentleman is open and above board, while a petty person harbors hidden agendas. We both know what the other seeks, don't we? Parker's gaze flickered as he slowly replied, yes. This is a transaction, a cooperation. At his words, a hint of barely noticeable appreciation crossed Parker's eyes. I have learned from you. The holographic projection gradually faded, and the meeting room returned to silence. Lu Ling sat alone on the sofa, his eyes slightly closed, mentally reviewing every word exchanged in their conversation and each subtle change in expression. Governor Zhuangbei, Planet Carthage 3. This planet is a tangible embodiment of the Zhuangbei family's rule, controlling the fate of over 10 billion people. By a beautifully scenic, clear lake lies the magnificent Parker Manor, sprawling over 50,000 square kilometers, vast and imposing, resembling an independent private kingdom. At the highest point of this orderly, naturally grand modern architectural complex stands a castle deliberately preserving the style of the ancient Patria Empire. In the study, Parker casually held a replica jade seal. A playful smile at the corner of his mouth, completely different from the solemn and humble air seen in the holographic projection moments ago. The Imperial Jade Seal is intriguing. After toying with it for a moment, he tossed the seal back to its original place. It was, of course, not a relic of the pioneers, but merely a tool made by his orders after receiving a message from Rachel. Naturally, the choice of the Jade Seal was not accidental. Parker indeed held a strong interest in the Earth Federation, particularly in Longhua civilization. He had studied all available translations regarding Longhua civilization in the ancient text library of the Karasi Royal Academy. Within those fragmented records, the Jade Seal was speculated to be an emblem of identity for the ancient noble pioneers of Longhua. For this reason, Parker had invested considerable effort into research and collection. But the results were meager, let alone what others might find. Thus, he set this trap to test Lu Ling's depth. If he truly came from the Earth Federation, the successor of the pioneers, he should recognize this item. Even if he did not, Parker had various means to verify it. Parker understood that this test appeared to be under his control, yet Lu Ling inadvertently returned a more valuable answer, prompting deep thought. It turned out this was not the noble emblem of the Longhua pioneers. Parker recalled Lu Ling's words and compared them with the scattered records in the ancient texts. The two aligned perfectly. He murmured to himself, "Is it true that one who receives this item by divine mandate can become an emperor?" The impact of this realization struck Parker like a revelation, as he grasped the key insight. And it seemed that the essence of Longhua civilization he sought was guiding him toward a certain beginning of fate. Parker had a strong premonition that the direction he had been searching for was wrong. The essence of the Fireseed civilization left by the pioneers must be something similar to the Jade Seal. It seems that the think tank's assessment report on the Starship engineer from the Galactic Federation was overly conservative. However, that is not important. Parker is quite satisfied with this meeting. Rachel, that dog, has finally managed to secure some personnel matters for herself. Yet, what does it mean that gentlemen are open and honest while the petty are not? Chapter 76. The Game of Desire Deep Within the Lonely Grave Base. In Lady Sarah's private living room, heavy velvet curtains block out the thin starlight from the outside world, leaving only a few dim wall lamps to light the room. The air is filled with a rich extraterrestrial aroma. Those who often visit the shops in Blackwater Bay would recognize this as a high-grade aphrodisiac essential oil extracted from the Mekawa autonomous region of the Kosh constellation. Known for significantly enhancing endurance, the scent is so strong that it almost feels as if it could seep into every corner of the room. Within the dimly lit curtains, a sturdy figure stands with his hands on his hips, a shiny bald head gleaming. His right hand is raised, holding delicate wrists and ankles as he practices intense driving maneuvers. Hurry up. The burly man remains silent, fixated on the well-maintained, smooth white car paint. The dual-lens headlights appearing substantial and textured, and the car's rear lines being pleasing to the eye. Rachel is next door, and all the guards have already been replaced with our people. Don't sway so much. The man ignores the remark, wildly pressing the accelerator. The sound of the turbocharged engine roaring. He has already lost the trust of that individual. This is our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Still, the man does not respond, stubbornly honing his driving skills. Lucius mentioned that a mechanic named Lu Ling is a favored guest of that individual. It must be said that traditional internal combustion engines are incredibly durable. They boast strong power and handle various high-difficulty drifts without pressure, but this also makes it more challenging. We can use this to regain trust. With a fierce drift around a corner, the pearl-white Racer S roars surged to a new peak, its overwhelming momentum dimming the starlight outside. Get ready to act quickly. Yet even so, the man remained silent, driving with one hand, steady as a mountain, showing no signs of stopping. In the medical center next door, the cold metal walls are filled with countless precision instruments, with liquid conduits of varying thickness pulsating and flowing like living beings, emitting a deep hum. Unlike Lady Sarah's lair, which is filled with the sweet scent of aphrodisiacs, this place is permeated with the sharp smell of disinfectants and organic repair fluids, oppressive to the point of making it hard to breathe. In the medical pod, standing like a coffin, Rachel has opened both eyes, which have returned to the size of green beans, appearing extremely eerie. His damaged body has largely healed, yet one side remains frail, with an arm as thin and pale as a baby's, creating a bizarre sense of discord with his otherwise robust physique on the other side. Lucius? The voice echoed in the cold, empty medical room. It was dark and silent, with no response. Usually, at this time, the chief advisor, who would stand by like a shadow, ready to execute his will, was nowhere to be found. Rachel's cold eyes narrowed slightly, her bean-sized pupils shrinking even further. Lucius's disappearance was faster and more complete than he had anticipated. This, in itself, was an extremely dangerous signal. Rachel understood, but unfortunately, there was nothing he could do. A thick tube connected to his central nervous system on his back could only be disengaged by external commands. The surveillance screen beside the door lit up, showing Kareem outside, trying to get in but being blocked by 6 guards, ultimately leaving in anger. However, a turning point soon appeared. On the monitor, Rinky's towering figure appeared. Facing the obstruction from the 6 guards, his mechanical arm suddenly seized one guard by the throat, mercilessly crushing it. Amid the horrified gazes of the remaining guards, the hatch opened. Cold white light from the corridor streamed in, highlighting the solid, mountain-like figure. The hatch closed again, plunging the space into dimness as Rinky walked closer to the medical pod. "Where's Lucius?" "On the Great Devil," Rinky said, his gray-white short hair standing on end like steel needles, making the scars on his face appear even more terrifying. "It seems you have made a choice." A rare complexity flickered in Rinky's hawk-like eyes. "Father, tell Lucius to set the net immediately and execute Sarah and Wanka." Rachel's cold, snake-like eyes remained indifferent. "It's too late." Rinky slowly shook his head, then turned to look at the door. The hatch opened once more. This time, there was no cold white light from the corridor. Only the flickering red emergency lights from within the base, casting a blood-like glow. It was the gate of hell. A massive, wild, oppressive figure blocked the doorway, nearly filling the entire frame. He was bare-chested, his bronze skin covered in crisscrossing scars, muscles bulging like iron. Dressed only in a dark, sweat-soaked pair of shorts. He stood barefoot on the cold ground. His silent gaze bore down on Rinky like a tangible weight. It was Wanka. Rinky met his gaze calmly. His mechanical right arm occasionally contracted slightly, emitting a barely audible low hum of metal engagement. Their eyes clashed in the air. Wanka took a step forward. Rinky gently raised his right arm, blocking it in front of him. His hawk-like gaze suddenly became as sharp as a knife, revealing a chilling brilliance. However, at that moment, Rachel spoke. "Wanka, now that you all dare to oppose me, do you think that after all these years, I, Rachel, am no longer capable?" Those small, cold eyes were fixed on him through the pod wall, staring at him as if he were a corpse. "Do you think you have already won? That bitch Sarah played with you for a couple of days, and you really consider yourself the master of the Red Devil? It's just that you, this wild dog who can't control your pants, naively cherish her kind." This statement was like an invisible ice pick, sharp with every word. Wanka made no sound, but his breathing began to intensify. "Get lost," Rachel shouted sharply. Riink's mechanical prosthetic weapon ejected a finely crafted short blade, devoid of any shine. Yet the patterns on it were made of shattered jade alloy. Wanka's breathing grew heavier, hot and oppressive, like a suppressed volcano. The two sides faced each other in silence. Eventually, the hatch slowly closed. In the shadows, Riink sheathed his weapon, feeling a hint of confusion. "Father, why didn't you let me kill him? It would have been easy." A person can only truly experience pain when they are alive. You still have a long way to go in your learning. When you become a great master like me, you will be the master of the Crimson Devil. Great Master? This is the title given to sages by the Earth Federation. Even in that pioneering nation, such individuals are rare. Rachel's tone held an undeniable authority. Riink felt a rare moment of clarity. He understood completely now. He had previously wondered why his father, with his past demeanor, would show such mercy. It seemed that his father's mindset had reached an entirely new realm. "I, Riink, will definitely become a great master like you." At this moment, the solitary tomb base had turned into a hell on earth, chaos reigning supreme. Cries of battle echoed everywhere, and the air was thick with the pungent scent of blood and ozone. Everyone knew that Sarah and Wanka had staged a coup, and the fate of the great leader Rachel was unknown. Kareem hurriedly ran towards the dock, flanked by several loyal subordinates. He could not distinguish friend from foe, only knowing that everyone gathering around them, except for his few trusted companions, were enemies. "That one with half a head is Kareem. Catch up and kill him." Lady Sarah said there's a reward of 100,000 star coins. Upon hearing this, Kareem abruptly stopped, his subordinates rushing ahead only to awkwardly turn back to pull him along. "Boss, hurry." Kareem pulled out a 20mm caliber electromagnetic pistol, buzzing as he said, "That woman Sarah betrayed my father and even said I'm only worth 100,000 star coins. I can't leave. We need to go kill her. My grandfather's current bounty is 160,000 star coins." One of his subordinates nervously glanced back at the pursuing enemies and shouted, "You heard wrong. They said it's a reward of 400,000 star coins. Run." "Really?" Zing, zing, zing. The firepower was fierce, pinning them down. Just as they rushed through a junction piled high with debris and corpses, a vent cover riddled with bullet holes suddenly opened from above, and Kareem's subordinate immediately raised his weapon to shoot. "Are you crazy?" "It's me." A voice came from the vent. "It's Officer Sela." Kareem's men halted. If it were anyone else, they would not have hesitated. But for this officer, who almost single-handedly managed the operations of the Crimson Devil unit, they were all too familiar with him. Kareem shouted angrily, "You betrayed my father too. Damn it, you brainless fool, get in here." The manhole cover opened, revealing Sela's gaunt, pale face, though he looked somewhat disheveled at that moment. "Hurry, hurry." Kareem's initial subordinate urged, and the group quickly squeezed inside, holding their breath. Outside the pipe, the sound of heavy footsteps and the buzzing of armored vehicles gradually faded away. Luckily, this pipe had a diameter of 3 meters. Otherwise, Kareem would have been doomed. The pipeline was constructed under my supervision and is quite sturdy. Seller patted the thick edge, earning the admiration of his subordinates. Follow me. Under Seller's lead, they twisted and turned, avoiding the main combat zones, and eventually arrived at a relatively remote backup hangar, where there were fewer signs of battle. Although the air was still thick with tension, in the shadows of the hangar's corner, there was a modified assault boat, and beside it stood a figure. It was the Mamba. At that moment, he looked terrible. Despite being hastily treated, his swollen, bruised eyes regained some awareness but were filled with bloodshot veins and undeniable weakness. Strangely, his arms hung limply at his sides, utterly feeble. "It's you," Kareem shouted angrily upon seeing him, and his subordinates exchanged uncertain glances, looking at Seller as their hands slowly moved towards their waists. A trap? The Mamba, after all, was the second in command of the fortress, a confidant of Wanka. A significant figure in the core circle of interests. A flush appeared on Seller's pale face as he spoke hurriedly. "Stop the nonsense. The Mamba is one of us. Arranged by Lord Lucius. Get on the boat. This is our only chance to leave." "No, I want to kill him." Kareem raised his gun to shoot. The Mamba simply sidestepped, leaving a charred hole in the ground where he had stood. When that murky gaze turned towards them, there was even a hint of provocation in his eyes. Kareem's subordinates were stunned, looking at Seller. "If that's the case, then you can stay here with your father." Seller said coldly, "Get on the boat." "Wait." A cold glint flashed in Seller's eyes as he turned sharply, only to find that the speaker was not Kareem. It was one of Kareem's subordinates, who had been silent throughout their escape, even drawing a curious glance from Kareem. "Keek, my lords, I think it's better to stay." Seller suddenly froze. It was someone from Sarah. "Kill him." For once, Kareem obeyed, turning his gun around, and the others quickly followed suit to open fire. However, this infiltrator was well prepared, deftly dodging all shots and swiftly disappearing behind cover. Just then, the heavy alloy doors of the backup hangar began to open slowly. A massive figure, bare-chested and wearing iron boots, slowly emerged, stepping forward silently like a rock. It was Wanka. Kareem's subordinates were horrified, and Seller narrowed his eyes, silently beginning to retreat. While the Mamba staggered into the assault boat, Wanka didn't even glance at them. His gaze was like a branding iron, fixated on Kareem, filled with invisible resentment. "Wild dog," Kareem muttered softly, stepping forward to stand in front of everyone, then raised his right hand, curling his middle finger and whistling flirtatiously. "Shoo, come here." Upon seeing this, Seller immediately understood Kareem's intention and hurriedly turned to flee towards the assault boat. At that moment, Kareem was a hero in his heart. He had always underestimated him, and in that instant, Wanka moved. His massive body erupted with a terrifying speed completely unfitting his size, trampling over the metal debris and smoke. Charging straight for Kareem. "Watch out, boss." The loyal confidant let out a desperate roar, trembling with fear, yet bursting forth with astonishing courage. Suddenly standing in front of Kareem and firing wildly with a pulse rifle. However, all the shots were easily dodged by Wanka. Seeing this, the confidant immediately drew his combat knife and charged. Kill. Wanka didn't even make any unnecessary movements. He charged forward with his massive body, the terrifying momentum crushing like a bug. With a sickening sound, bones shattered and internal organs burst. The man didn't even have time to scream before being turned into a blur of blood and flesh, flying back dozens of meters, silent forever. "Get out of here. This wild dog is coming for me." Kareem spread his arms, using his enormous frame to shield everyone behind him, like a mother hen protecting her chicks. "Boss, take care." His subordinates left in tears, not looking back. Kareem's peripheral vision caught sight of the puddle of mangled flesh in the distance, his expression clearer than ever. "Little Tay, I will avenge you." Wanka's charge showed no sign of slowing down. Even the corners of his cold mouth seemed to twist into a faintly cruel arc. With a loud thud, at the moment of contact, Kareem's towering body of 2 meters and 3 centimeters was sent flying into the air. Then a giant hand covered his head, crashing down with immense force. The ground shook, and the metal floor cracked and caved in. Kareem's head was forcibly pressed into the ground, and all sounds seemed to freeze at that moment. Wanka slowly withdrew his bloodied hand, standing up to gaze at the assault boat igniting its engines. Just then, Kareem's crude mechanical arm suddenly grasped his wrist. A rare look of confusion appeared on Wanka's rock-like face. With a slight pull, he yanked Kareem out of the pit. To his surprise, where the neck was broken, it revealed not flesh and blood, but a dense network of mechanical structures and cables. Wanka's pupils slightly contracted. The mechanical arm still clung on tightly, and Wanka exerted force to break free. He then reached into Kareem's chest, piercing through what seemed to be a robust torso, and amidst flying sparks, pulled out an extinguished energy core. A robot. Kareem, whose head was a mess, had only half a face left along with a ruined organic structure. A clump of brain tissue fell to the side, gradually ceasing its movements as the energy supply was cut off. It turned out this was merely a shell. The real Kareem had long since died. It was unknown when Rachel had used the remnants of his brain to bring him back to life. No wonder he always looked somewhat dazed. Wanka looked again at the half-face of Kareem. The final expression that formed was neither fear nor anger, but a kind of mocking relief. Chapter 77. Andre the Purge of Power was nearing its end. In the vast assembly square of the Crimson Devil, a sea of heads was visible, eerily silent. Originally a crowd of over 100,000, more than half had been wiped out in this bloody cleansing. Most of the remaining were from the headquarters of the Consortium and the Fortress, while the extras were surrendering fleets and pirates from the two departments of the Crimson Devil. The crowd was huddled together, their eyes filled with the terror of survival and confusion about the future. Mrs. Sarah stood on the command platform. While Wonka silently stood behind her, blood on his hands congealed into a thick layer, emitting a nauseating stench. At that moment, both of them were impeccably dressed, yet had lost the desire to drive. A leader rushed over, seemingly just finishing a task, his tone laced with a suppressed excitement. Madam, all confirmed remnants of resistance have been eliminated. Except for the flagship, all other warships are now under control. The Red Demon leader, Kareem, has been executed. Currently, only Sela and Mamba are at large, and our people are in pursuit. Additionally, per your orders, the private collection of Chief Rachel has been cleared out. The so-called collection was merely a compilation of various women that Rachel had plundered and imprisoned over the years, many of whom had shared a stick with Sarah or secretly competed with her out of jealousy. Now, they have all been reduced to a series of cold numbers. The officer paused, lowering his voice even further. There's one exception that cannot be touched according to your earlier instructions. Mrs. Sarah listened expressionlessly, her eyes not betraying any emotion. The thrill of seizing power did not cloud her judgment. She keenly sensed the leader's hesitation and slightly parted her red lips. This place is completely under my control. You're referring to. Just then, the elevator doors at the edge of the gathering square opened, revealing the figures of Lu Ling and Greenleaf, followed by two vigilant, well-equipped elite guards from the fortress. Although nominally protectors, they were actually there to monitor. All eyes immediately turned to Lu Ling as he approached slowly, sniffing the metallic scent of blood in the air, a smell he had grown accustomed to. He then looked at the command platform. Mrs. Sarah, congratulations on taking over the Red Demon. You're more decisive than Rachel. Mrs. Sarah was momentarily taken aback, quickly descending with a somewhat restrained yet enthusiastic smile. Lord Lu Ling, the base has just undergone a necessary restructuring, and it's still a bit chaotic. I apologize for the inconvenience. Her words were polite and her smile appropriate. But Lu Ling could clearly see that deep in Sarah's eyes, there was no respect, only a cold scrutiny and a hint of deeply hidden wariness. However, Lu Ling didn't care at all. He knew that this woman wouldn't dare to lay a finger on him. In this line of work, one had to consider their background. His current identity was that of a distinguished guest of the Zhuangbai family. If Sarah dared to rebel, it was merely an attempt to attach herself to the towering tree that was the Zhuangbai family. As long as he didn't make any outrageous demands for immediate self-harm, Sarah would have to make concessions on any interests. I'm not interested in the Red Demon. I just want one person. Sarah secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After all, Lu Ling was someone Rachel had brought back at great cost, and if he were to interfere in this matter, it could lead to complications. She could not, and did not want to, offend this esteemed guest appointed by Zhuangbai. It was important to note that the family's escort fleet was likely already on its way. May I ask who you want? Sarah maintained her smile. The mother of Chief Medical Officer Greenleaf. In an instant, the smile on Mrs. Sarah's face froze, and a deeply ominous premonition surged in her heart. The gaze gradually sharpened, suddenly fixing on the green leaves, and then turning to Lu Ling. May I ask what your relationship is with our Greenleaf's leader? Wang Ka left the command platform, his silent gaze locking onto them with a heavy sense of oppression. Lu Ling's eyes flickered slightly, secretly on guard. This Sarah wasn't foolish. Although she had no personal enmity with Lu Ling, she did with the green leaves, a deep-seated grudge. If she were to openly admit a close relationship with the green leaves at this moment, this woman who was in an extremely sensitive state might act out of desperation, leading to mutual destruction. She couldn't guarantee the possibility of retaliation from the green leaves. People like them always considered the worst outcomes. If it came down to death anyway, it didn't matter if the Zhuangbai family arrived. Even if the emperor came, they wouldn't be afraid. It's nothing. The green leaves saved my life. I tend to repay kindness. Lu Ling's voice was low, while the green leaves lowered their eyelids, their gaze wavering. This might not align with the usual decorum, and Sarah was preparing to formally decline, hoping Lu Ling would be sensible and not make things difficult for everyone. Mrs. Sarah, however, did not expect Lu Ling to directly interrupt her. Looking calm, You will agree. Sarah took a deep breath, suppressing the unnamed anger in her heart, blaming those damned lackeys. If they had killed the green leaves and her mother earlier, there wouldn't be so much trouble. But she forgot that it was she who had personally ordered to fulfill all of Lu Ling's requests from the start. Just then, a pirate leader rushed in. Madam, a ship has arrived at the port. It bears the Zhuangbai Navy's emblem. They have docked. Sarah was startled. Panic spread through the gathering square like a plague. The Zhuangbai Navy. Those 4 words were like the sword of Damocles hanging over these outlaws, representing absolute power, order, and death. It's Zhuangbai? How could they find our base? It's over. Run, hide quickly. Sarah's expression immediately darkened, no longer caring about Lu Ling. She walked towards the command platform, sternly shouting, "Silence! What are you panicking about? Zhuangbai is not here to target us this time." Although her words had some effect, it was not significant. It wasn't until Wang Ka stepped in and eliminated a few people that the unrest was temporarily suppressed. But countless fearful eyes remained fixed on the eerily silent corridor leading to the main port. Lu Ling knew that the people he was waiting for had finally arrived. Tap, tap, tap. The orderly, clear, steady, and rhythmic sound of metal boots striking the alloy floor came from the depths of the corridor. They moved slowly but carried an absolute authority that pierced through the oppressive silence of the square, striking at everyone's hearts. All the pirates' gazes were instantly drawn over. Holding their breath, several pale figures slowly emerged from the shadows of the corridor, stepping into the light at the edge of the square. The leader, dressed in a platinum-toned Zhuangbai Empire Navy officer's uniform, stood tall and slim, with a prominent golden 3-star emblem on his shoulder. The collar was tightly fastened, and behind him, the Navy Knight's cloak swayed slightly with his steps. His face bore the marks of middle age, with sharp contours and a head of neatly cut silver hair, beneath which were a pair of emotionless gray-white eyes. One gloved hand casually rested on the hilt of a magnificent dark golden longsword hanging at his waist. The higher one's genetic rating, the better one could control their expressions and emotions. Andre, the commander of the First Knight Order of Zhuangbai, had a genetic rating of C. This was his publicly available information, accessible online. What about Rachel? He asked slowly, his voice not loud, but sending a chill down the spine. His gray-white eyes turned towards the command platform. Lady Sarah's heart tightened, as if she were being targeted by the most fearsome creature in the world. She quickly suppressed her fear, forcing a respectful and obsequious smile, almost jogging towards him, her body leaning slightly forward. Her tone infused with utmost humility and respect. Esteemed envoy of Zhuangbai, you have finally arrived. Rachel has gone astray, and I, Sarah, the new leader of the Red Devils, am willing to serve you and the great Zhuangbai family. As Sarah spoke, she knelt on both knees, her hands touching the ground, her forehead nearly brushing against the shiny tips of Andre's boots. You killed Rachel? Andre did not look down at her, but instead turned his gaze to Wanka. Wanka felt the cold gaze and instinctively sensed an overwhelming threat. With her forehead pressed against the floor, Sarah's throat constricted, and she caught a glimpse of the iron boots leaving her sight. Suddenly, she remembered something and shouted, that esteemed guest, His Excellency Lu Ling, is unharmed. The iron boots halted. The pirates in the square moved aside, creating a path, at the end of which, in the passage, Lu Ling was quietly chatting with Greenleaf about when Sarah would meet her end. When Andre looked over, Lu Ling appeared calm on the surface, but his genes involuntarily stirred. Andre, the commander of the First Knight Order of Zhuangbai, a silver knight, genetic rating C, Greenleaf subtly reminded him. See, no wonder. The activated gene sequences might number in the dozens. The higher the genetic level, the stronger the adaptability to the universe, and naturally, the harder it is to kill. This was the strongest human Lu Ling had encountered to date, and judging by his physique, he had no mechanical modifications. He followed a pure route. Their gazes met in midair, and Lu Ling did not flinch. Having survived the Blackwater Bay and the Shattered Star Whirlpool, he was no longer the anxious engineer he once was. Moreover, he had completely distanced himself from that woman, Feng Ling. If he retreated now, his worth would naturally diminish. This was the reality of the world. As expected, Andre took the initiative to step forward, stopping 3 paces in front of Lu Ling. He placed his right hand on his chest and slightly bowed, performing a standard imperial noble greeting. Esteemed guest, thank you for your patience. The young master specifically instructed me to ensure your utmost comfort. As for the worry of mistaking someone, I have confirmed Lu Ling's appearance and physical data countless times. There is no way to make a mistake. The earlier act was merely a simple test. A warm bedroom and delicious food have been prepared for you for quite some time. Please follow me away from this filthy place. Andre's voice was steady and respectful. Please rest assured, no one here can harm you in the slightest. No rush, first help me with 2 things. Lu Ling nodded and pointed to Wanka beside the high platform. This person just tried to kill me. These words, seemingly light, instantly negated Andre's earlier assertion. Andre remained respectful. following Lu Ling's hand with his grayish-white eyes, turning towards Wanka. Not far away, Sarah, who was crouched on the ground, trembled slightly, her body unable to suppress the shivering. And she closed her eyes as if accepting her fate. I understand. Andre, holding the ornate sword hilt, walked slowly towards Wanka, his cloak billowing. Wanka's eyes fixed on him, gradually turning crimson, a low, warning growl emanating from his throat, his muscles tensed, radiating an overwhelming aura of hostility. Andre stopped about 30 or 40 meters from the command platform. Wanka crouched low, ready to attack, clearly sensing a great threat. Yet a tremor rooted deep in his human genes kept him from making a rash move. Don't move. Andre slowly drew his sword, the blade shimmering with a cold silver light, pointing towards Wanka from afar. A faint but distinct sound echoed in everyone's ears. Lu Ling felt as if a strong light flashed before his eyes, blinding him momentarily, making it impossible to grasp what had just happened. However, after a blink, Andre still stood in place, as if he had never moved, the ornate long sword quietly sheathed. It seemed like just an illusion of light and shadow. Yet, opposite him, Wanka's robust body remained in a poised attack stance, muscles bulging, the fierce aura still present. Only above his neck, there was nothing. The next moment, blood sprayed several meters high as Wanka's massive, headless body collapsed to the ground. This was a true, suspense-free instant kill. Lu Ling's eyelid twitched slightly. A 40-meter-long sword? A laser? Or something else? The technology of Zhuangbei was intriguing, Lu Ling thought. Chapter 78. The support arrives. Wanka's corpse was warm, blood gushing from the neck wound, darkening like its owner's ambition. In the assembly square, there was a deathly silence. All the pirates felt a chill in their hearts, their blood nearly freezing, and their breathing almost halted. They watched helplessly as Wanka, the second in command of the fortress, was dispatched like a chicken, without any chance to resist. The will and power of Zhuangbei were presented to them in the most direct and primitive way. Lady Sarah remained kneeling on the ground, trembling violently, her forehead pressed against the cold earth, afraid to lift her head. Andre seemed to have merely done something trivial. He slowly turned around and walked back to Lu Ling. Bowing slightly, "Noble guest, the evil that has offended you has been executed. Please instruct me on the second matter." Lu Ling suppressed his astonishment at the 40-meter sword light and shifted his gaze to the trembling woman on the ground. Lady Sarah. Lu Ling's voice clearly resonated in the silent square. Lady Sarah's body trembled violently, as if struck by electricity. I'm here. I'm here." She struggled to lift her head, her face devoid of color, her lips trembling as she crawled over, her demeanor humble. "Just now, you mentioned that." Lu Ling slowly squatted down in front of her, saying my situation is difficult? It's not difficult. Not at all. It's completely fine. I was confused. Her voice was hoarse as she shouted at her already terrified subordinate. "You fool. What are you still doing? Hurry and bring the mother of the Green Leaf leader here." "Yes." The subordinate hurriedly left the gathering square, almost crawling. The entire square remained silent, everyone holding their breath, the atmosphere oppressive to the point of suffocation. This was the deterrent power of Zhuangbei, ingrained in their bones. What were desperate criminals compared to a slaughter? Like killing a chicken. Lu Ling and Andre stood quietly. Greenleaf clenched her hands tightly, her nails nearly digging into her palms, her eyes filled with anxiety and a glimmer of hope. Soon, hurried footsteps echoed from the passage. Two soldiers from the fortress, almost half supporting, half lifting an elderly woman dressed in tattered prison clothes, her hair gray, face haggard, and filled with terror, brought her in. However, the earlier subordinate did not appear. At this moment, nobody paid any attention. Tears instantly welled up in Greenleaf's eyes. She wanted to rush forward, but was stopped by Lu Ling's gaze. Andre slightly tilted his head, and a knight from Zhuangbei, who followed him, stepped forward to take over. His movements not particularly gentle, yet exuding the unique efficiency of a soldier. These subordinates of Andre also had impressive genetic strength. As the knight brought the woman over, Greenleaf immediately stepped forward to take her. When she touched her mother's bony arm and saw her mother's murky, unfocused eyes, her entire body froze. "Mom." Her voice trembled with disbelief. Greenleaf suddenly looked at Sarah. It was the first time Lu Ling had seen this woman angry, her eyes flashing with cold, vicious resentment. Sarah's head was bowed, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "Is it you?" The elderly woman trembled as she reached up to touch Greenleaf's face, her voice barely making it out as she had no teeth left. "I'm sorry, Mom." Greenleaf embraced her tightly. "It's all my fault." Andre watched this scene with a calm expression and then slightly bowed again. "Respected guest, the second matter is taken care of." Lu Ling did not respond but looked at Greenleaf, who suppressed her grief and anger, giving him a slight nod, her heart finally settling a bit. Just as she was about to speak, suddenly, an extremely sharp and penetrating alarm sound abruptly shattered the silence in the gathering square. All the pirates' faces changed dramatically, looking at Andre in panic, then at Sarah. Sarah's eyes instantly filled with disbelief and fear. She raised her head to look at Andre, both fearful and frantic. Andre's grayish-white eyes scanned the surrounding commotion with indifference, his figure unmoving. This sound was the highest-level enemy attack warning of the Red Devil, triggered only during strong enemy invasions. Because in the entire Dominion, only the Zhuanbei Navy could turn the tide against the Red Devil. Lu Ling and Greenleaf looked up at each other. Only the two of them knew clearly. Fengling, she has arrived. Outside the desolate base, the universe was dim and the starlight sparse. Yet at this moment, the tranquility was shattered in an instant, as dozens of blinding transition flashes flickered rapidly, one wave after another, coming closer and closer. At each point of Flash's disappearance, a steel warship surged forth from the void, its menacing paint job revealing its pirate identity, blood-red curved blades of the Blood Alliance, the pitch-black sails of the Black Flag, and the twisted skulls of the Villains Gang. In the blink of an eye, dozens of warships formed a fleet, their massive shadows coldly casting over the metallic shell of the base. In the final moment, the Night Orchid-class destroyer burst forth, and the eerie blood rose at the bow seemed to come alive under the starlight. Fengling, leading her coalition of pirates, had finally arrived. She had deliberately let the other pirates take the lead, using this brief time difference to attend to a crucial personal matter, making her appearance seem delayed. The Night Orchid, equipped with a transition engine inherited from the Eve space pod, was now the fastest ship in the constellation. Seated in the captain's chair, Fengling gazed ahead at the deep collection station and refinery. On the holographic sand table, 14 crimson enemy ship targets lined up like lambs to the slaughter. Her voice traveled through the fleet channel, clear and cold, reaching every warship. All ships, listen up. Once the tunneling effect ends, immediately execute standard battle preparation procedures. All escorts will form high-speed assault formations, advancing at full speed to maneuver around 300 kilometers from the enemy base, establishing close-range defensive barriers. Prioritizing the elimination of all peripheral defense platforms and artillery arrays. All destroyers and cruisers converge towards me at medium speed, forming a firepower projection formation, maintaining relative speed. Synchronizing fire control radars, establishing electronic superiority, loading cruise missiles, and preparing for the first round of saturation strike. All Iron Riders, assault landing craft fully fueled and armed. Prepare to launch. All drones, load the launch channels, and release immediately after establishing electronic suppression. This battle, kill Rachel and Sarah, reward 5 million. Silence. A moment of dead silence fell over the pirate coalition fleet channel. Even the distant leaders Rosaniella, Sir, and the Great Demon were caught off guard by Fengling's sudden astronomical bounty. Oh, so wealth allows one to do as they please, huh? In the next second, the shouts of various pirate captains erupted, the previously somewhat loose morale of the pirate coalition skyrocketing to its peak due to the staggering reward. Especially those daredevils about to be the first to land, their eyes instantly turning red. They howled and dug out the long-stashed equipment, life-saving potions, and even life-depleting stimulants, fearing they might miss out on the 5 million due to a single missing bullet. The massive pirate coalition fleet completed its final assembly and merging 600 kilometers from the base. Once the tunneling effect ended, they began to operate according to Fengling's orders. In the cold expanse of space, countless engine nozzles adjusted their directions, missile silos slowly opened, and artillery began charging and locking onto targets. A strange order began to take root within the pirate fleet. A greater panic spread across the assembly square. The leader who had just crawled away to gather people now returned, scrambling back with a pale face, as if he had seen a ghost. There are many ships outside. Pirates. So many pirates. He spoke incoherently, as if he had exhausted all his strength to scream. It's the Blood Alliance. And the Black Flag thieves. The scoundrel gang is here too. They all came. They're outside. They've surrounded us. It's over. It's all over. How is this possible? What are you talking about? Lady Sarah staggered to her feet, the last trace of color draining from her face, leaving only a deathly pale and incredulous shock. She had just settled into the position of the Red Devil's chief. This news was even more devastating than the pressure from Zhuanbei. The reason she dared to take risks was precisely because she calculated the deep-rooted conflicts and mutual suspicion among these major pirates, believing that a united front was impossible. As long as she climbed the high branches with the Red Devil and waited for some time, she would become Zhuanbei's pirate queen. It's Fengling, that wretched woman. Sarah shrieked, realizing the truth. Andre's cold, gray eyes swept over the completely unhinged Sarah. To him, the infighting among pirates was nothing unusual. Suppressing pirates was the Navy's job and had nothing to do with his mission. He turned to Lu Ling, his tone still steady. Your Excellency. The situation is beginning to spiral out of control. Your safety is the highest priority. Please leave this place with me immediately. All right. Lu Ling nodded, secretly giving a signal to Greenleaf. The 12 men brought by Andre formed a protective circle around the three of them, with Andre leading the way. All pirates attempting to block their path, or even just obstruct them, were ruthlessly cut down. Seeing this, Sarah immediately rushed toward the command center, issuing orders along the way. Everyone prepare for battle. Board the ship. She had worked hard to reach this position, and even if Feng Ling had somehow managed to unite 3 pirate factions to eliminate her, she would still bite a chunk of flesh from them. Only then would their alliance crumble. Boom! A deafening explosion echoed from within the base, shaking the entire solitary graveyard base. The lights at the top of the assembly square flickered wildly, with some even bursting, debris falling down. There are traitors. They've blown up our missile silos. Number 1, Number 3, Number 6. All destroyed. The nuclear reactor is leaking severely. Engineers, mechanics, and the damage control team have all been assassinated. What? Boom. Another even more terrifying explosion occurred. This time, the shockwave came from outside. The crowd erupted in even more terrified screams, plunging into greater chaos. The Mandala's corridor bridge has been destroyed. Hurry to the landing craft. Let's charge in. Just as Lady Sarah rushed into the command center. Hearing the continuous bad news and explosions, she stood frozen as if struck by lightning. The missile silos are destroyed. The reactor is leaking. The damage control team is wiped out. This meant that the defensive facilities were destroyed, and she and her fleet had become sitting ducks. Damn Feng Ling. Sarah's voice twisted with extreme anger. It's Lucius. It must be him. Only he could do this. He has long since allied with Feng Ling. He has deceived us all. She finally understood. The reason Feng Ling was able to unite the 3 factions was largely due to Lucius, the deepest infiltrator. Not only did he provide intelligence, but at the most critical moment, he dealt a fatal blow to the Red Devil from within. The throne she had fought so hard to claim was not yet warm. And now it, along with the entire foundation, was about to be lost. Endless despair instantly engulfed her. But in the next moment, an extreme, twisted resentment erupted from her eyes. No, I can't just end like this. She lunged at the control panel, continuously issuing commands, some of which were almost shrieked. All operational turrets. All launchable missiles. Fire them all. Target the black sail. Just hit the black sail. Only the black sail. Hit them hard. Even if I die, I want to tear off a piece of you. At this moment, 15,000 kilometers away from the lonely grave base, the great devil hovered silently in the void, its engines dim. Lucius sat in the captain's chair issuing commands, suddenly feeling a slight itch at the tip of his nose. But he paid it no mind. The bridge hatch opened, revealing Mamba, whose injuries had improved slightly after 3 treatments. Lord Lucius, everything is ready. When shall we rescue the Grand Leader? No rush, after the dust settles. Meanwhile, in the evacuation passage, the Wanbei Knights, led by Andre, efficiently cleared all obstacles ahead. Intense explosions followed one after another, shaking the passage violently, with thick smoke filling the air and the shrill alarms and blasts nearly tearing at one's eardrums. Bring me what was prepared for our esteemed guest. Andre's steps remained steady, his cloak billowing in the aftermath of the shockwaves. A knight immediately took a nano-armor belt from a tactical backpack, pure black in texture, with a bright blue energy core glowing at its center. While 5 exquisite Wanbei family crest flowers slowly rotated on the surface of the core, emitting an unsettling wave of energy. This is level 5 nano-armor. Lu Ling was taken aback, recalling how powerful the nano-armor was when he experienced it in Blackwater Bay. Rachel's black armored guard had only just reached the E-Gene threshold, yet could suppress Ishiwei with a level 3 armor. The Wanbei casually produced level 5 armor, truly extravagant. The belt seemed to require a special command. Andre personally assisted Lu Ling in donning and activating it. The blue core on the belt flashed, and countless pitch-black nanoparticles surged out like living creatures, quickly enveloping Lu Ling's body, forming a fitted, sleek, and futuristic full-body armor. The helmet's HUD tactical interface activated instantly, clearly displaying surrounding environmental data, life signs, defense metrics, and energy readings. With the enhancement of the nanoparticles, Lu Ling felt a surge of power coursing through him, becoming one with the armor. I need another one. Lu Ling quickly added, turning his gaze to the pale-faced green leaf beside him, speaking earnestly, she saved my life. At his words, Andre's movements paused ever so slightly. It is clear that equipping such valuable gear to an auxiliary personnel is not part of the standard procedure. However, without hesitation, he immediately ordered the knights, retrieve another officer's weapon for the lady's use. Nisk and Zat, you two protect the lady, by all means, ensure nothing unexpected happens. Yes. The 2 knights executed the order without hesitation, positioning themselves on either side of the lady, with energy shield generators activating instantly to form 2 semi-transparent shield fields. During this critical time, the lady didn't mind the change in titles. Mom, I'll carry you. Meanwhile, the deputy officer of the docked naval destroyer sent a communication, General, there are many enemies. Should we allocate some energy to the shields? No. Allocate everything to the jump engine overload consumption. Understood. Guidance expected to end in 2116 seconds. At that moment, Andre seemed to have sensed something. Everyone, get down. In the next second, several black armored figures appeared. A deafening explosion, far more terrifying than any previous blast, erupted from their front side, followed by a series of chain explosions, as if a core energy source or munitions depot had been completely detonated. A massive shockwave rushed in, approaching at an almost instantaneous speed. Buzz. Andre almost instantaneously positioned himself in front of Lu Ling, pressing a hand against his back as they both crouched low. The two knights drove the energy shield's impact guns deep into the metal floor, using their bodies and shields to build the strongest barrier, facing the storm head-on. Boom. The gravity control system of Lu Ling's combat boots activated automatically, providing strong adhesion that prevented him from being swept away by the shockwave. However, the fierce storm still caused a terrifying distortion in the entire corridor. General, drones report the front corridor has completely collapsed. Thermal signals indicate large-scale energy leakage behind us. Radiation levels are rising sharply. We are completely trapped. The knight responsible for clearing the path quickly scanned the environment, his voice carrying a suppressed urgency over the channel. Immediately scan for an alternative route. Prioritize radiation-safe zones. Andre, highly composed, steadied his grip on the sword hilt. A piercing white light flashed, and a new opening several meters deep was created in the corridor. Scanning, Commander. Another route to the port is 5,660 meters away. The fastest estimated arrival is 244 seconds. The Lonely Grave refinery was almost entirely laid out with massive pipes, twisting and winding like a maze. As for the path Andre had taken, it had long been blown away along with the Mandala's bridge. 244 seconds. We can't get back to the ship in time. Sir, the plan has changed. Temporarily halt the evacuation. Andre made a decision almost instantly, then connected to the bridge, ordering all shipborne knights to immediately launch towards the predetermined coordinates to establish a defense line. The mothership immediately withdrew from the battlefield to avoid enemy fire. Lu Ling observed throughout, and upon seeing him conclude the orders, finally spoke up. General Andre, outside there is a group of bloodthirsty pirates, in a collapsing nest. There are no intact eggs. If Sarah is defeated, we won't be able to escape either. The young master has already personally led the fleet out, and will arrive within 20 minutes. At that time, Andre's grayish-white pupils will rarely flash with killing intent, and all pirates will surely be annihilated. But that will be a matter of 20 minutes later, won't it? What do you mean, Your Excellency? Sarah's command level is concerning. She won't hold out for 20 minutes. Once defeated, the pirates will completely plunder and destroy this place. Unexpectedly, Andre decisively refused after hearing this. My orders are to ensure Your Excellency arrives safely to meet the young master. Lu Ling countered, but it doesn't prevent us from using Sarah to buy time. The morale of the Red Devil cannot collapse. Andre understood. He had already understood, and his gaze behind the mask deeply looked at Lu Ling. Your Excellency, could it be? Lu Ling naturally grasped Andre's meaning. Don't worry, I promised your young master to have dinner together, so there's no need to be concerned about my safety. I'll be ready for pickup in 20 minutes. As she spoke, she patted the core of her battle armor belt, where 5 shining Zhuanbei flowers glimmered. Andre was issuing a command, while Lu Ling was speaking about reality. After a moment of silence, Andre made a decision. All right, Your Excellency, with me here. I will ensure your safety in these 20 minutes. He immediately gave the order. Yin Liang will stay behind to protect the guest, and the rest will follow me to attack. At your command, General. The moment the order was given, all the Zhuanbei knights followed Andre, disappearing deep into the corridor. Only Lu Ling, Greenleaf's mother, and one remaining knight were left behind. Yin Liang. Lu Ling looked at the knight who stayed behind alone. She stood quietly, encased in a perfectly fitted black officer's battle armor. The armor's shoulder lines, waist, and legs featured an extremely streamlined design, maximizing agility and explosive beauty while ensuring absolute protection, making her already tall figure appear even more slender and vigorous. The sensors on her helmet displayed a deep blue color, and even through the helmet, one could feel the focus in her gaze. She simply stood there quietly, one hand resting on the hilt of her sword. You don't need to follow me. Go help General Andre. Lu Ling tried to persuade her. My top priority is to ensure your safety. General Andre's orders take precedence over everything. Rest assured. They are capable of handling this chaos. Yin Liang's voice came through the channel, extremely calm and confident. Lu Ling immediately understood. Andre's decision to leave her behind was not random. This knight, named Yin Liang, likely possessed professional skills and combat ability far beyond the ordinary. However, conversely, her personality was unyielding. Just from their initial conversation, Lu Ling realized that verbal persuasion would not be effective. It seemed her plans would have to unfold right under her watch. She wondered how easy it would be to persuade her. Chapter 79. The Battle of the Lonely Grave Command Center of the Lonely Grave Base. The piercing alarm sounded like a dying wail, frantically tearing at everyone's nerves. On the massive holographic tactical map, red light points representing the enemy were densely packed, completely surrounding the weak green light that represented the Lonely Grave Base. Every time external artillery strikes the base's outer armor, it triggers a violent tremor, causing dust and debris to fall from the ceiling. The faces of those in the command center turn pale, their fingers tremble uncontrollably on the console, cold sweat soaks through their uniforms, and their eyes are filled with primal fear. The enemy is overwhelming. This is a premeditated attack. Madame Sarah slumps in the command chair that originally belonged to Rachel, her gaze gradually dulling. She thought she had gained power, unaware that she had already stepped into a carefully arranged graveyard. Ha ha ha, the solitary grave base. Rachel, you old fool. Did you know this day would come? Just then, a communication comes through. Sarah. Madame Sarah jolts as if struck by electricity, her scattered gaze suddenly focusing. Hearing that voice, her body involuntarily straightens. Lord Andre. Andre directly issues orders. His tone is flat, as if stating an established fact. The enemy has superior numbers, but they are not invulnerable. You must immediately gather all remaining operational warships and take the initiative to attack. Attack. The flush of anger on Sarah's face gradually fades with Andre's words. She looks at the dense array of red dots pouring in on the sand table and the sparse green lights representing her side, lacking the courage to proceed. Lord, there are too many enemies. If we hold the base, we might have a chance to wait for reinforcements. Or what, Sarah? You can't hold it, Andre interrupts, providing a rare explanation. Take the initiative and use mobility to disperse the base's firepower. That way, we can wait for reinforcements. I will act when necessary. If you survive, I will personally commend you. Andre casually paints a picture of hope and ends the communication. Besides this mission to protect Lu Ling, Andre also serves as the naval attaché and commander of the First Knight Order of Zhuangbai. At this level, he understands how to manage subordinates. For someone like Sarah, the more desperate the situation, the more he needs to use the Zhuangbai background to offer hope. Whether that hope is real or not doesn't matter. What's important is that a desperate cornered beast will expend its last ounce of strength for it. They will unleash unexpected combat power for this faint hope. As for the commendation, it serves merely as necessary reassurance. The promises made by Zhuangbai have always received neither praise nor criticism. Sarah has no way out. Madame Sarah stands frozen in place. Yes, General Andre is right. Holding the position is waiting for death. Only by charging out to disperse the base's firepower can they hope to wait for the arrival of the Zhuangbai Navy. At that time, haha. Sarah suddenly laughs maniacally. Feng Ling, today, I will ensure your utter destruction. I will crush you to ashes. Sarah immediately issues the order for the fleet to launch an attack. Everyone stand by. Form a defensive formation 200 kilometers below the base. Maneuver to avoid the enemy's long-range concentrated fire. The assault team, move out immediately. Block them. Everyone hold on. The Zhuangbai Navy will soon crush these scoundrels. By then, all the prey in the autonomous region will belong to us, the Red Devils. Her orders were filled with desperate madness, yet strangely infused with a false sense of mission. A pie, layered and passed around. In absolute despair, one will desperately grasp at any straw that seems to offer salvation, even if that straw leads to flames. After the orders were given, Sarah suddenly calmed down. Only those who often make empty promises truly understand what it means to do so. In that moment, she realized and saw through Andre's schemes. However, as Andre said, she had no other choice. Contact Feng Ling. The atmosphere was vacuum cold, and the booming of artillery echoed, with thousands of meters of blinding white trajectories crisscrossing. Missiles were launched, igniting a series of fiery lights. The pirate coalition engaged in battle formations, with the command unit in the center. On the bridge of the Night Orchid, the tactical officer continuously called out names. Each command felt like issuing a death warrant. On the holographic tactical map, the blue friendly markers had already surrounded the outskirts of the solitary tomb base, engaged in mobile fire. Further away, the central artillery units were targeting the solitary tomb base with missiles. The hatch slid open, and Lian hurriedly entered. Walking to the center of the bridge, she paused slightly behind the captain's seat, which faced the starry sky. Leader, intelligence from the inside has come in. Just as you predicted, Sarawanka has defected. Rachel's main fleet and the Red Demon unit have suffered heavy casualties in the internal purge. Currently, the one stubbornly resisting at the command base is Sarah herself. At that moment, the communications officer shouted, "Report. We have received a communication request from the enemy. Accept it." The holographic image projected, revealing Sarah's figure. She no longer appeared regal. Her hair was disheveled, her breathing rapid, and her once splendid uniform was stained, making her look utterly disheveled. Feng Ling, you traitor. betraying your father and the Red Demons, and now you dare to collude with outsiders to attack our base. Do you even know who you are provoking? Her voice suddenly rose, carrying the last vestiges of madness. The naval officer instructor from Zhuangbei, the commander of the First Night Order, Rear Admiral Andre, is currently at the base. I am now the appointed agent of Zhuangbei, and your actions are declaring war on Zhuangbei. Silence fell on the bridge, broken only by the faint hum of tactical instruments. Fengling listened quietly, her face devoid of expression. Sarah, I originally thought you were just greedy, but now it seems you are also a bit foolish. Others throw you a bone, and you pick it up like a dog. What is the difference from Justin back then? Justin, who, in order to rise to power, wagged his tail like a dog, waiting at Sarah's door for 3 days and nights. These humiliating words caused Sarah's image to tremble violently. She could hardly believe how things had escalated to this point. Heaven and hell, power and death, were just a thought apart. Fengling, you have provoked the Zhuangbei family. You won't survive. Fengling's narrow eyes were as cold as ice. She leaned slightly forward, her voice slowly rising. Sarah, let me tell you, today, I am determined to dismantle this base. Even if the Count of Zhuangbei were to come in person, he cannot stop me from killing you. You, Rachel, and the Red Demons must disappear. You madwoman. Sarah ended the communication. Report. The enemy fleet is beginning to set sail. The radar operator shouted loudly while identifying signals. Identifying 3 destroyers and 8 frigates, beginning sub-item analysis. Comparing with the source database, Mandala, Blood Prison, and Red Demon. Fengling slowly spoke. Connect to the entire fleet channel. Focus fire on the Mandala. Yes, the command, like a cold judgment, instantly spread throughout the pirate fleet. Upon receiving the highest order, they immediately redirected fire to the Mandala. Ha ha, let it taste my big hammer. In the cold silence of space, whether it was the Vanguard high-speed assault fleet of the Coalition or the long-range fire support in the middle, all cannons and launchers, without exception, firmly locked onto the black-gray destroyer Mandala that had just burst out of the port. This was Sarah's flagship. Inside the Mandala's bridge, the piercing alarm instantly rose to the highest frequency, detected a large number of missiles incoming. For seconds until impact. Saturation attack, exceeding interception limit. Repeat, exceeding interception limit. Fleet assistance needed for interception. There was no time left. The officer in command turned pale. He had no idea why these pirates were focusing their fire on him. Why can't the 3 destroyers and 8 frigates share the attention? A blazing light erupted before his eyes, engulfing the trembling world. Sink the Mandala. Receive the highest order. Immediately redirect fire to Blood Prison. The massive body of the Mandala burst into an extraordinarily brilliant fireball at the solitary grave base port, consuming and tearing apart everything. The hull broke into several pieces, and burning debris along with frozen bodies were thrown in all directions by the shockwave of the explosion, slowly spreading until they turned into cold graves. At the command center of the solitary grave base, there was no hysteria as imagined. Sarah watched her ship explode in a martyrdom and sighed slightly. A loss is a loss. Electronic superiority established. Repeat. Electronic superiority established. A notification came from the black sails. Fengling sat upright in the captain's seat. On the tactical display, the pirate coalition had gained absolute advantage. The beacon of Blood Prison slowly disappeared, and the remaining Red Demon was heading towards the lower 100 kilometers of the solitary grave base, attempting to use its maneuvering advantage to distribute the base's firepower. Engage the high-speed assault fleet, maneuver to pursue, destroy the enemy's departing targets. Engage the fire support fleet, approach within 100 kilometers, continue attacking the solitary grave base's resistance facilities. All armored units, assault boats, and drones launched to eliminate all enemy air forces. With continuous orders being issued, the entire fleet immediately mobilized. The assault fleet surrounding the base swiftly pursued the Red Demon fleet, creating a long blue dragon on the tactical display. The fire support fleet where Fengling was also approached the solitary grave base simultaneously. Fengling glanced at her short-haired, elegantly fierce aide beside her, her eyes flickering before returning to calm. Lien, lead the Falling Goose squadron to engage, form an assault formation with their armored units, and end this battle as quickly as possible. Understood. Wait. Fengling suddenly called out to stop her aide's retreating figure. Pay attention to what Sarah said about Andre. No one here can match him. If it's really him, retreat immediately. Lien was taken aback. Understood. The hatch closed, and Fengling's gaze returned to the sand table. Contact the informant to confirm the movements of the Navy. Yes. The communication officer responded quickly, a hint of tension in his voice. Report. The informant says the Navy is gathering, reportedly close to the scale of 2 full fleets. Reportedly? Not detailed enough. Who is leading them? At which starport are they gathering? Fengling frowned. The informant said that probing further carries great risk. Triple the payment. The communication officer immediately relayed the message, and about 20 seconds later, The informant replied. The fleet is gathering at the Carthage starport. It consists of 2 full fleets, including 6 battleships, 15 battlecruisers, and 39 cruisers. The leader is Admiral Claude, and they are ready to jump, expected to arrive at the battlefield in about 30 minutes. The entire bridge fell abruptly silent, with someone's fingers trembling slightly. There is enough time. Upon hearing this, Feng Ling immediately connected to the deck command. Blood Shark, Ghost Crocodile, can launch an immediate assault on the lone grave base. You have 20 minutes for a round trip to capture Rachel and Sarah, no matter the cost. Understood, Chief. The communication channel echoed with the brief and composed responses from the 3. On the D-7B deck of the Night Orchid, nearly 2,000 people gathered. The ship crowded after merging the crew from the Red Fawn. Everyone hurried onto the assault boats. At the Blood Shark's assault boat hatch, a thin man blocked the entrance, shouting, Full, full, don't squeeze in, go to another boat. But we have always been arguing with the scar-faced pirate, who is the leader of Blood Shark. Stop talking. I said it's full. Isn't there space over there? Hurry up. The pirate spat in frustration and reluctantly turned to squeeze into another crowded boat. However, 2 burly men boarded first. Hey, first come, first served. The scar-faced pirate hurriedly sped up. Ha! Who told you to move like a tortoise? The last man held onto the hatch and laughed heartily. Damn it. He could only watch as the hatch closed. The thin man pressed the button, and the heavy rear hatch slowly closed with the screech of hydraulic machinery, completely isolating the outside noise and chaos. The dim adjustment lights inside the boat illuminated 25 silent faces as safety harnesses were pulled down and locked in front. Blood Shark placed the heavy Skullcrusher shotgun, measuring 1.7 meters, on the partition of the cockpit, his thick arms crossed over his chest, leaning back slightly. Eyes closed in rest. Opposite him sat 8 slender women dressed in combat suits. They stood out sharply from the other old pirates inside, who were exuding sweat and hostility while checking their weapons or muttering curses. Zavina sat among them, her golden brown hair tied in a ponytail, revealing a smooth forehead and well-defined chin. Her steel blue eyes appeared particularly deep in the dim light, occasionally glancing at the countdown timer on her wrist. The old pirates who followed Blood Shark out of Blackwater Bay either rested with their eyes closed or focused on maintaining their weapons, showing no dissatisfaction with this group of women, but rather a hint of reassurance. They knew very well the strength of Zavina, even secretly giving her the nickname Master Slayer Zavina. All targets, whether human or non-human, met their end at her hands without exception. Meanwhile, the newcomers who had just joined from the supply ship huddled in the back cabin, whispering among themselves. What is going on? How did the boss let a bunch of women come aboard? And they got the best spots? I don't know. Maybe it's the leaderess arrangement? Hey, you still maybe? Shoo, keep it down. Didn't you see the boss and those old-timers haven't said a word? TSK, stop with the theatrics. If things kick off later, just don't hold us back. These hushed discussions were soon drowned out by the roar of the engines. The assault boat jolted violently, and then lightened as it surged off the deck, and outside the palm-sized porthole was the boundless darkness of deep space. At this moment, it seemed like everything was settled, or perhaps the plan was just beginning. Shiwena looked at the boss. Thank you. The boss slowly opened his eyes. His voice this time no longer rough, but filled with complexity and fatigue. No need. I owe the chief a life. Sending you all over is just repaying his kindness. The leader's actions this time really chilled people's hearts. Sigh, perhaps the next time we meet, we'll be enemies. As the boss finished speaking, the old pirates beside him suddenly opened their eyes, their bodies jolting awake. They stared intently at Shiwena, their nerves stretched to the limit, their gazes filled with suspicion. Some discreetly protected their necks, secretly adding extra padding to their armor. There was no sense of security on this journey at all. Chapter 80. Stealing from your home deep within the lone grave base. A slight tremor was felt. This massive base, spanning 20 kilometers, was built against an asteroid belt, and it would take at least 20 more minutes for external forces to reach here. Greenleaf was carrying her mother, an elderly woman who had endured imprisonment and torture, her nerves frayed and utterly exhausted, while Greenleaf gently coaxed her to sleep. Lu Ling held the base's holographic map, searching for something. Yin Liang quietly followed 5 meters behind, vigilant, with her hand never straying far from the hilt of her sword. Strange, Rachel's treasure vault should be right here. So why can't I find the entrance? Lu Ling furrowed his brow as he studied the map. He noticed that the metallic floor beneath him felt slightly different. But the vault shouldn't just vanish into thin air. There might be a mechanism. He is very cunning, Greenleaf said quietly, a hint of coldness flickering in her eyes. Click. A sound, extremely faint yet definitely not ordinary metal grinding, emanated from deep within the metallic floor. Almost simultaneously, Yin Liang's figure appeared before Lu Ling, her cool voice low and urgent. Alert. Before her words fell, 2 crimson lights ignited from the shadows of a ventilation duct. They shot out at astonishing speed, aimed directly at the frontmost Yin Liang. Yin Liang bent her knees and lowered her waist, gripping the sword hilt as she assumed a combat stance. Flash. The sword light flickered like a cold flash of lightning. The shadow burst apart, fragments scattering with sparks flying. Its remains crashing down with inertia, sliding along the passage for several dozen meters before coming to a stop. Lu Ling felt an itch of impatience. He had to get his hands on one of those 40-meter swords. He increased the brightness of his shoulder lamp, finally seeing the shape of the shadow. It turned out to be a mechanical dog. Clearly, the entrance to the treasure vault is hidden nearby, and this mechanical killer has been activated. With a flick of her wrist, the sword light retreats into its sheath. It must have triggered the defense mechanism, so be careful. After walking just a few meters, a sudden burst of crimson light illuminates the darkness ahead, densely packed, like the eyes of hell opening. Lu Ling sighed. Well, let's wait then. The ground trembled as countless mechanical dogs charged forward. The silver sword was drawn again. Crack, crack, crack. The sword light spun, shattering the darkness. The sound of metal tearing was incessant. Lu Ling silently activated the nano-tactical helmet to shield against the blinding light, while Green Leaf turned her back. The flashes behind her merging into a single mass, just like a series of rapid photographs. 3 minutes later, with a slight flick of her wrist, the silver sword returned to its sheath. Ahead, a mass of mechanical debris lay scattered everywhere. There, that's what we call professionalism. Lu Ling now had no objections to Andre's arrangements. If it weren't for the silver sword, they might have wasted a lot of effort. The four entered the passage, and at the end stood an extremely sturdy round vault door. Beauty, could you help open the door? Lu Ling smiled at Silver Sword and her longsword. Energy is limited. General Andre's order is to ensure your personal safety. Silver Sword declined. All right then. Lu Ling took out the key, which was Rachel's identity card. That old fox always kept this card close, but unfortunately, his body was shattered in the battle at Blackwater Bay, and Green Leaf conveniently took it during the surgery. The door slowly opened, and the scene behind it left everyone slightly stunned. It was not the luxurious vault they had imagined, piled high with gold and jade. Rather, it resembled a cold and efficient industrial warehouse. The walls of the circular hall were made of heavy alloys, and cold lights evenly poured down from above, illuminating the deepest secrets of this crimson heart of the devil. When looking at the central pile of deep blue, Lu Ling's breath quickened. Star coins, full to the brim with star coins, layer upon layer, stretching as far as the eye could see. Each star coin was about the size of an old Earth $1 coin, but heavier, with a standard weight of 500 g each. They originated from the ancient minting factory of the Parthian Empire, continuously enhancing the empire's strength and economy through the compression of endless mirage crystal ores. Lu Ling wanted to climb up, take deep breaths, and roll around in it. After her initial surprise, Silver Sword quickly calmed down, looking at Lu Ling's back. No wonder she wanted to send away Lord Andre. Green Leaf felt indifferent, but she knew Lu Ling was short on money. Lu Ling threw out a palm-sized scanning drone, which unfolded its light screen to thoroughly scan the entire vault of several thousand square meters. On the wristband, a holographic real-time scanning information popped up, continuously refreshing. Star coins, 38, 640, 296, potions, 24, 754, level 1 energy core, 543, kinetic weapons, 892, electromagnetic weapons, 844, single core nano armor, 892, dual core nano armor, 32, triple core nano armor, 1, light cruise missiles, 64, heavy cruise missiles, 3, safe, 44, common crystals, 1450 m, scatter boron, 133 m, helium, 3 isotope, 195 m, reaction metal, 14 m, carbon matrix, 660 g, biological synthetic fiber, 1640 m. Lu Ling gazed at the breathtaking wealth list. The accumulation of decades of chaos. I've really struck it rich, he murmured. Now, how to get rid of the Silverwing? He needed to recharge the system. Just then, a beeping sound came through the communicator. Lu Ling revealed a knowing smile. Zywina, they have arrived. Outside the Gu-Grave base, the cosmic space was completely ignited by the flames of war. Intense explosions shook the long-abandoned refinery facilities, twisting external armor and metal structures shattered under the impact. The firelight flickered. Thousands of assault boats and hundreds of thousands of drones from the pirate coalition rushed in like a bloodthirsty swarm, completely breaking through the base's outer defenses. At this moment, all external railgun turrets and internal defense facilities were precisely destroyed, leaving only sporadic resistance. At the forefront of the coalition's landing fleet were the outlaws from the villain gang, their vessels covered in menacing graffiti and blood handprints, moving in a chaotic trajectory, charging towards the base's shell under anti-aircraft fire. The assault boats of the villain gang stuck to the base's exterior, with superalloy drill bits protruding from their bellies. directly creating large holes. As they broke through, the gang members howled, immediately injecting drugs, driven by the promise of 5 million star coins from Feng Ling. They had long since disregarded life and death. 5 million. As long as they survived, they would be set for life. Behind the villain gang was the Black Sails assault boats, arranged relatively orderly, utilizing the distraction of the villain gang to land with minimal losses. The Blood Alliance had the largest number of assault boats, with over 460, carrying more than 11,000 personnel. Clearly, they were well prepared. Inside one inconspicuous Blood Alliance command assault boat, the atmosphere was surprisingly relaxed. Hee, boss, our insider is really impressive. Managing to obtain the precise path and defense information of Rachel's treasure trove, a crew member with a scarred face said with a flattering smile. This time I brought 200 EMP grenades, betting everything. Let us hit it big. The leader sitting in the command seat curled his lips into a smug smile. Keep it low-key. The villain gang and those Black Sail idiots actually believed that woman's nonsense. Going to grab the heads of Sarah and Rachel for bounties. Even the Red Devil, at the end of its strength. How could that 5 million star coins be so easily obtained? Let them fight among themselves. He paused and lowered his voice. In a moment, there will be some commotion from the second sister's side to help us attract attention. We need to act quickly. The transport ship is already at the jump point, and the window is very short. Got it, haha boss. Once we get the money, I'm heading to a certain place to buy some top-notch goods and work hard every day, said another lean crew member, rubbing his hands with a lewd grin. Useless thing. The leader scolded with a laugh. With this money, why not find a colonial satellite to clean your identity and become a wealthy person? Clean my identity? You mean wash my backside? Haha. The cabin erupted in vulgar laughter. Amidst the banter, the assault boats had already crashed into the outer armor of the solitary grave base, and the drill heads began to cut frantically. Some Blood Alliance assault boats didn't even stop, boldly charging directly through the gaps torn open by the villain gang or through abandoned pipelines into the base's interior. News about Rachel's treasure was naturally only circulated among the upper echelons of the Blood Alliance. The cake is only so big, and the fewer people who know, the better. At the rear were the personnel from the Night Orchid, the smallest group, with only a few hundred people. Another round of anti-aircraft fire from the Crimson Devil arrived, shaking the boat. The right engine is damaged. Speed is disabled, expected to make an emergency landing in 14 seconds. Boom. A cruise missile launched from a pirate coalition's black-sailed cruiser exploded close to the tail of the assault boat, the violent shockwave causing the boat to jolt violently, with red lights flashing in the cabin. Damn, was that on purpose? Bloodshark was violently slammed against the cabin wall by the massive inertia, then bounced back. He cursed, gripping the almost toppled shotgun tightly. With the rear thruster damaged and output power decreasing, emergency landing was expected in 6 seconds. Bloodshark pounded on the cockpit door. No landing. Get us in there. Understood. The pilot wasted no time, directly following the bold assault boats of the Blood Alliance and plunging into the building structure. The assault boat, trailing 2 plumes of black smoke, performed a side emergency landing, engaging reverse thrust and crashing into a makeshift small port. Creak, accompanied by a painful metallic bending sound. Half of the boat's body landed on the edge support of the port platform. The cabin lights flickered before completely going out a few seconds later. This was a perfect emergency landing. As for how to return, they'd see if they could catch a ride with someone else later. The assault boat's hatch opened, and a lean man jumped down first, rifle raised high. Charge. Bloodshark looked at Savannah and gave her a thumbs up. In the Battle of Blackwater Bay, you were the one. What did the chief always call it? MVP? Then his tone turned serious. Take care. If we meet on the battlefield in the future, remember, blades and guns are blind. With that, Bloodshark rushed into the base without looking back. Savannah glanced at his back, then turned to Kira, Wella, and Denise. Follow me. Regroup. Yay. Let's find the boss. As the captain, Savannah had a more detailed route and defense deployment map than Bloodshark or the Blood Alliance, leading directly to the core treasury. Chapter 81. The Death Vortex. The solitary graveyard base resembled a hollowed-out metal wreck, silently collapsing. The pirate coalition had barbarically carved holes all over the base's shell, and sparks occasionally erupted from the gaping wounds torn by artillery fire, illuminating the chaotic battlefield inside. General 34. Only 3 ships remained of Sarah's forces. They wouldn't last long before being completely annihilated. The attacking pirate formation had fallen into disarray, revealing gaps. In the shadows, Andre stared at the chaotic red dots on the tactical radar and calmly issued orders. 34. Wait. 11 White Hawk-class Iron Riders hovered silently, their streamlined white bodies perfectly blending into the darkness. Even 2 Black Sail Iron Riders that swept past from a kilometer away failed to notice them. The anti-cosmic wave stealth coating was one of the advanced technologies of the Zhuangbi family, perfectly absorbing almost all active detection beams and suppressing its own heat signals and energy radiation to nearly the level of cosmic background noise. When the pirates' long-range bombardment fleet advanced to within 200 kilometers, Andre finally moved. Nisk, Zat, go set up the jump interference probes. The rest, charge with me. The thrusters roared to life, and 11 streaks of white lightning tore through the void. In just a few moments, they had advanced several dozen kilometers, breaking through the blockade of the escort ships and heading straight for the heart of the rear fleet. Warning: high-speed, unidentified objects approaching the control area. Radar ineffective. Visual only. Repeat, radar ineffective. Visual only. Visual? What nonsense. A commander of a Black Sail escort ship leaned out of the porthole. Missiles? Assault boats? The Red Devil's secret weapon? Unable to identify, there were no records on cosmic wave detection, and the IFF was unresponsive. Quick, use optical lenses. The main screen quickly switched to high-magnification optical capture mode. In the next second, everyone on the bridge gasped, their souls trembling. It was the Zhuangbi Navy. How could they be here? Can't lock on. Absolutely can't lock on. Their movements are erratic. The computer can't predict. The fire control officer desperately pounded the console. Switch to manual fire. Wait. The Black Sail pirate commander suddenly interjected. Don't move. Shoo. Their target isn't us. Let's pretend we don't know. Don't bring trouble upon ourselves. Navigator, inject all energy into the jump engine. But sir, the fleet hasn't ordered this disobedience. To survive, follow my orders. Unfortunately, not all pirates were so wise, or rather, not everyone was so lucky. A rapid response squadron of Iron Riders belonging to the Blood Alliance appeared, painted wildly, driving heavily modified Blood Claw-class Iron Riders, roaring past the flanks of the long-range bombardment fleet. Their mission was to eliminate any potential remnants of the Red Devil on the periphery. Almost instinctively. What is that? At 3 o'clock, 164 kilometers below, approaching the fleet at high speed. No enemy identification codes. That's the enemy. Brothers, charge forward and tear them apart. The squadron leader shouted, and the pirates' ferocity instantly overwhelmed their reason, unhesitatingly changing direction, with engines bursting forth dark red flames as they surged forward. In the heart of this fleet, a 4-9 advantage was in their favor. However, as they approached at high speed. Wait, that flower looks somewhat familiar. Oh no, it's the Zhuangbi Knights. Run. Hurry. The realization came too late. A white streak of light broke away from the group and struck, drawing its blade like a hot knife through butter, precisely embedding itself into the core of the cockpit. The Blood Alliance Knights charge came to an abrupt halt, only to be propelled forward by the Zhuangbi cavalry, the sheer force startling the pirates. Immediately, the streak of light intertwined continuously. 4 Blood Alliance mechs exploded in succession. However, this scene caught Lian's attention, as she was currently surrounding the solitary grave base with over 30 cavalry units. Not good. Reinforcements now? We're under attack. Meanwhile, Lu Ling was excitedly counting supplies. Suddenly, a muffled yet penetrating explosion echoed from beyond the thick alloy walls of the treasury. Someone was fighting, and they were getting closer. There's trouble. Yin Liang stood in front of him. Lu Ling frowned slightly and immediately made a call. Shi Weina, is that you? The communication was filled with the sounds of explosions and shouts, and Shi Weina's voice came through. So many people, it's the Blood Alliance pirates. They triggered a trap and didn't notice us. The Blood Alliance? Lu Ling was taken aback. Immediately realizing that the treasury's information had been leaked, you come from the safe line. Understood. Lu Ling ended the call, looking at Yin Liang and Greenleaf. Speaking rapidly, enemies are approaching, prepare to respond. Yin Liang didn't say a word, just nodded slightly, his sword hand steady as a rock. His entire being like a taut bowstring, breath locked on the entrance. Greenleaf carefully placed her mother behind a relatively safe alloy box and drew out her pulse pistol. Eyes alert. The sounds of battle outside the treasury grew closer, and the vibrations from the explosions even caused subtle tremors in the ground within the vault. Clearly, the Blood Alliance fighters were formidable, quickly clearing the defensive structures in the corridor and advancing towards the core of the treasury. Lu Ling quickly ran out of the treasury and climbed to a high point. This was a wide passage over 40 meters, with thick pipes several meters in diameter on both sides, and he soon spotted Shi Weina and the others. Shi Weina. The golden-brown figure immediately jumped down from a pipe over 10 meters high, dressed in level 3 armor captured from Blackwater Bay, sprinting towards Lu Ling. Yin Liang positioned himself beside Lu Ling. It's fine, there are people. Soon, Shi Weina reached Lu Ling, her steel blue eyes quickly scanning him, and after confirming he was unharmed, she warily glanced at Yin Liang beside him. Behind her were 7 girls, including Gira, Qin, and Dennis, all holding guns and looking vigilant. Clearly, their training had never slackened during this time. These people were his first batch of subordinates. Time passed quickly yet slowly. It had only been a week since the Blackwater Bay battle, but for Lu Ling, It felt like several months had gone by. What's the situation outside? Lu Ling lowered his voice. Can't tell friend from foe. Their route overlaps highly with ours, and I felt something was off, so I didn't make contact hastily. They have at least several hundred people, well-equipped, and clearly heading here. Damn it, the Blood Alliance must have high-level infiltrators near Rachel. Otherwise, how could such top-secret information about the treasury possibly leak out? Lu Ling took a deep breath, his gaze sweeping over everyone present, his tone serious. From this moment on, we are no longer the Red Army. Whether it's Feng Ling or anyone else. He glanced at Yin Liang beside him, cleared his throat, and stated, except for Zhuang Bei. They are all enemies. We are now fighting solely for ourselves. Understood, Captain. Everyone responded in unison. Yin Liang's visor shifted slightly. Although her expression was not visible, Lu Ling could sense the subtle change in her gaze. Lu Ling immediately ordered, everyone, those with insufficient weapons can replenish them from here, hold the entrance firmly, and await my command. His gaze landed on Yin Liang, including you. Only you can block their attack. Yin Liang nodded slightly, her left hand firmly resting on the sword hilt, unmoving. After retreating into the treasury, the personnel were arranged to guard the entrance, and Lu Ling returned to the star coins. Absorb. As he focused his thoughts, the small mountain of star coins instantly vanished. In fact, on the scale of the entire warehouse spanning tens of thousands of square meters, this amount of star coins was not significant. Wallet balance. 50, 667, 245 at this moment. Adding the previous remaining 12 million, the wallet balance finally reached a historic high of 50 million. Similarly, Rachel's assets were valued at nearly 20 million. With 15 pieces of blood amber alone, being with a big brother makes a difference. The broth is all golden beef. Lu Ling chuckled to himself. He never expected that his first summoning of an Eve ship was not to break through a siege, but to play the role of a thief. No, this should be called robbing the rich to help the poor. He was already this poor. Robbing the rich for himself was not a problem. In any case, at this moment, money was finally sufficient. System. He must feel confident now, right? 50 million. Can it fit a death vortex? Owning a ship from Eve is just a starting point. Subsequent expenses and investments may not be lower than the value of the ship. A slightly better one becomes a bottomless pit. If you want the best, it becomes a big feast. Lu Ling quickly browsed the store interface. 1,200mm cannon type 1. One of the strongest artillery pieces at the battleship level. Usable ammunition types. Carbon lead bullets, hard molybdenum bullets, electromagnetic pulse shells, fusion shells, nuclear core shells, phase-locked ion shells, proton shells, and titanium alloy sabot rounds. Barrel length, 25 meters. Effective range, 840 kilometers. Optimal range, 400 kilometers. Maximum rate of fire, 93 kilometers per second. Loading interval, 10 seconds. Ballistic tracking, 14,062 times per second. Sale price, 15,000,000 star coins. 15 million star coins for one, not a set. Haha, with 50 million, I can only get 3 cannons. Lu Ling shed tears of poverty. The Death Vortex has 8 cannons? No, that's in the game. In reality, one slot has 2 cannons, which should be 16. Lu Ling bought 2 cannons with tears in his eyes. 30,000,000. Open the system hangar. Assemble Death Vortex class. Yes, please rename the ship. A unique name can make you stand out in the starry sea, and renaming can also help you distinguish between ships of the same model. Death Vortex. The Death Vortex has been assembled. Lu Ling opened the assembly interface again and installed 2 1,200mm cannons, and also purchased 1,500 rounds of 1,200mm carbon lead ammunition. Carbon lead round L, large projectile ammunition. This type of ammunition uses a simple lead block encased in a hard crystalline carbon shell. It is quite cheap and effective against most armor. However, it has little effect on energy shields. Maximum range increased by 60. Tracking speed increased by 5. Each round costs 3,000 star coins. 450,000. The wallet balance is only 15.5 million now, and Lu Ling began to check the configuration. Death Vortex class battleship. Wheelbase. Length 1484 m, width 430 m, height 395 m, solar wing 1060 m. Mass 134,000,000,000 kg. 134 billion tons. Maximum cruising speed, 1,150 ms. Effective shield strength, 12,200 TJD. Effective armor strength, 12,000 TJD. Effective structure strength, 11,500 TJD. Capacitor core, 60,000 TJ. Recharge time, 87 seconds. Reactor output, 18,500 GWH, 2950 GWH. Solar wing, large turrets, 16. Lu Ling's breathing became rapid. This is a steel behemoth measuring 14 kilometers long. Chapter 82. The game within the game, the heavy alloy door of the vault was blasted open with a deafening explosion. Hundreds of elite members of the Blood Alliance, dressed in crimson battle armor and with weapons nearly worn out, surged in like hungry wolves. Ha ha, brothers. They are coming to kill us. Damn it, that Rachel actually dared to create so many junk robots. The captain, Haichui, had a new scar on his face, and as they approached the vault, the greed and fervor in his eyes intensified. He waved his hand. Hurry, find the core storage area. Take everything that can be moved. His command was abruptly cut off. The entire team froze at the entrance of the vault, with those behind pushing forward, all peering in. The expected mountain of star coins, neatly stacked high-level potions, and rare crystals radiating tempting energy were all completely empty. What is going on? A pirate lackey exclaimed, his voice echoing painfully in the vast vault. No, where's the money? Where the hell is my money? What about Rachel's lifetime of accumulated wealth? The scar-faced captain's expression shifted from ecstasy to shock, followed by extreme anger and disbelief. They had paid a heavy price, breaking through the dense automated defense turrets and mechanical guards, losing at least 30% of their brothers, just to forcefully open this path. And this is the result? In the center of the empty vault, only a few scattered empty boxes remained. Their combination locks forcibly opened, revealing nothing inside. Drag marks were even visible on the floor, evidence of heavy items being quickly moved. Search. There must be something here. The scar-faced captain shouted in a fit of rage, his voice slightly cracking. Boss, the safe containing the golden blood amber has been pried open. What the hell? There's actually golden blood amber. The Eastern District only has some potions that seem to be antidotes left. Boss, good news. I found cruise missiles in the Western District. And a lot of equipment. We're going to get rich. Ha. Rich my foot. Do you think we can get our hands on those things? Boss, I found a lot of what? Fanfan crystals. Damn it. After a thorough search, they found only fixed assets and some hard goods that couldn't be quickly liquidated. There were plenty of weapons and ammunition, but these were essential supplies for the organization that had to be surrendered and had nothing to do with them personally. I want star coins. I need star coins. The pirates' faces turned grim. What they wanted was immediately spendable star coins, wealth they could pocket, not these goods that required channels and time to process. A young pirate squatted on the ground, holding his head in despair. Boss, what if we arrive too late? Late my foot. The scar-faced captain kicked him in the backside. This place is so heavily guarded, and we've lost so many brothers. Who else could have come in besides us? But what? It must be that old fox Rachel who moved everything already. But then, the scar-faced captain thought it over and felt something was off. If Rachel was prepared, why didn't she move the weapons and ammunition too? Why leave behind these relatively low-value items? Had she fled? But the intel confirmed that Sarah and Rachel were still at the base. It didn't make sense. Unless someone got there before them. Realizing this, the scar-faced captain began to sweat coldly. To clear this place without a sound was not something just anyone could do. He suddenly looked around, feeling as if someone was watching. Damn it. The scar-faced captain gritted his teeth, filled with extreme disappointment, followed by a reckless determination. Move. Get all of this out of here. Not a single thread should be left behind. We can't leave empty-handed. We can't let our brothers die for nothing. Hurry up. Be quick. This operation is confidential. That woman Feng Ling is going to clean up the mess later. If we're late, we'll be in big trouble. The pirates grumbled but had to accept reality, starting to hurriedly move the remaining large items. Although these goods had considerable value when accumulated, they were extremely heavy and hard to liquidate. But at that moment, they cared little, wanting only to quickly grab something and flee this cursed place. Damn it, didn't T. Byron say Rachel was rolling in riches? The scar-faced pirate couldn't understand. Meanwhile, as the Blood Alliance pirates worked tirelessly in the vault, the situation on the battlefield in synchronous orbit had suddenly changed dramatically. The once dominant Pirate Alliance rear, which had an absolute advantage, has now turned into an execution ground. Focus fire on the Blood Prison. This is the enemy's last ship. Whatever formations, just charge. Hurry, if we take it down, we can retreat. The Navy will arrive in 15 minutes. Report. The flagship has encountered an unknown enemy ambush. What? How can there still be people? Relay the order. The 2nd Assault Escort Squadron, the 3rd Flank Escort Squadron, and the 5th Main Escort Squadron immediately returned to support the flagship. After Commander Feng Ling's order was given, the more than 40 warships that were originally pursuing the Red Prison had to turn around. On the star map, the blue ship's signals formed a long line, weak in the middle and chaotic. However, at this moment, victory was already within reach. Naturally, no one cared. The firepower deployment fleet where the Night Orchid Fragrance was located was the flagship. What is going on? Who is attacking us? The Blood Alliance's Patrol Night Squad was completely wiped out. Unable to identify. The wave radar shows blank. The optical radar captured a few white light spots. Immediately activate optical targeting, visual engagement. The signal has been captured. Send it to the entire fleet. That S. Zhuangbai? Hiss. On the star map, which was originally filled with blue friendly signals, suddenly appeared 9 red light spots, rapidly approaching the flagship at a speed exceeding 4,000 meters per second. Commander Fengling sat firmly at the command seat, her expression unchanged even upon hearing about Zhuangbai's appearance. A holographic projection emerged. Commander Fengling. Why is the Knight Order of Zhuangbai here? The one who appeared was Rosaniella, who immediately sensed something was wrong after the Blood Alliance patrol cavalry was slaughtered. Fengling looked at her with a hint of coldness. Naturally, it's a grand gift for your Blood Alliance. What? Wasn't it you who deliberately delayed the bombing timing just now? A flicker of barely noticeable fluctuation crossed Rosaniella's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. Commander, you jest. In the midst of banter, the roles of attack and defense shifted. Is that so? Fengling's tone returned to calm. Do you know who leads this Zhuangbai? Oh, who is it? Rosaniella waited for the continuation. Your old acquaintance, the Karanchta alien slaughterer. Fengling articulated each word clearly. Cronwall Lano Andre. This name struck like a lightning bolt into the silence. Rosaniella's pupils constricted violently. Her breath nearly halted, and the habitual lazy smile on her face instantly froze, replaced by an almost solid coldness. You are certain? A figure like Andre, standing at the pinnacle of Zhuangbai, would surely have their whereabouts kept extremely confidential. Even Sarah or Rachel might know that Parker would send someone, but they wouldn't know the name or rank of the person coming. Sarah was shocked only after seeing him in person. She didn't expect that the Zhuangbai family would value Lu Ling to such an extent. Thus, she felt panic. She crawled, she feared, and consequently, became utterly humble. Fengling initially did not know when that plan changed. Naturally, it was because Sarah, out of fear, brought up Andre's name, hoping to make her retreat. Unfortunately, like Sarah, Fengling finds herself in a situation where things have escalated too far, and both sides have no way out, necessitating a fight to the bitter end. Rosaniella's gaze is icy, a stark contrast to her previous neighborly demeanor. Fengling sneers, her voice rising once more, not loud. Yet every word pierces like a needle. Do you think I mobilized everything I have just for a couple of stray dogs? This pirate alliance is formed for profit, and it will disband for profit as well. Today we can join forces to divide the Red Devil, but tomorrow, you will also turn on me for your own gain. Rosaniella understands, her expression darkening. So, you knew all along that the people from Zhuangbai would come. Naturally, I hold a temptation that Zhuangbai cannot refuse. Now, there is another temptation that your Blood Alliance cannot resist. Fengling's long, narrow orange eyes look at Rosaniella meaningfully. So, how do you like this gift? Rosaniella doesn't respond. Still staring at Fengling as their eyes meet, weighing the pros and cons. Rosaniella suddenly laughs. You are truly a madwoman, daring to think you can completely control us. Complete control is not what I dare to claim. Fengling replies calmly, then muses. However, if I want your fleet to truly serve me, mere profit is far from enough. I also need a common enemy, a blood sacrifice from which there is no turning back. The offering is already on the table, and conveniently, your Blood Alliance cannot refuse. Once Andre is dead, the Black Sail Pirates, the Evil Gang, or even the Yuta you control, all pirates from Zhuangbai will have no way out. This is a blatant scheme, a declaration of loyalty. Once the Blood Alliance chooses to strike first, everyone will be bound to this war chariot named the mortal enemy of Zhuangbai, rolling forward until they are utterly destroyed. You know quite a bit. After taking a deep breath, Rosaniella speaks again, her voice now filled with cold, murderous intent. Fengling, this is too big for you to handle. I accept the gift. But before that, if you dare to leak even a word of it, I will still kill you afterward. I will personally tell you that our will cannot be controlled by anyone. Chapter 83, Blood Alliance. The battle situation of the Pirate Coalition fleet has reached a fever pitch. 9 White Falcon-class Iron Riders, led by Andre, tear through the hastily set triple firepower net of the Coalition, leaving only the remnants of explosions in their wake. The second batch of Iron Riders from the Blood Alliance is launched, charging into the void. 12 Bloodclaw Iron Riders spread out in a fan shape, attempting to use their firepower to limit the mobility of the Zhuangbai Knights. Flames and kinetic projectiles streak across the cosmos, with various missiles flying and ship cannons firing in a brilliant white trajectory. Surround them. The squad leader of the Blood Alliance Iron Riders roars, issuing orders. Can't find them. A beam of white light suddenly cuts in from the side. The sleek body has no unnecessary angles, and its smooth surface has no extra sensory devices, only 2 subtle, faint blue light bands resembling narrowed predatory eyes. Not good. The cutting blade of the ship accurately pierces the power core of a blood claw. Boom. An orange fireball erupts, and then the White Falcon charges out, its deep blue eyes shining brilliantly. Damn it. The captain of the Blood Alliance's Iron Cavalry roared in anger. These monsters. This is blatant mockery. In the midst of thousands, taking a person's head was as easy as reaching into a pocket. From start to finish. This Jonbei Night Corps never used any ranged weapons. All strikes were close combat, piercing the cockpit. On the tactical screen, the beacons of teammates disappeared one after another. The White Falcon reappeared, this time in a frontal assault. The captain of the Blood Alliance watched as the white iron steed charged forward and hurriedly opened fire. Kinetic projectiles shot out like a line of fire, but the machine moved at incredible speed, each maneuver precise, and in an instant, it was already through. With a swoosh, the ship-slicing blade was unleashed. An arc of light flashed, and shadows separated as the captain's iron steed was cleaved in two. Boss, run. The remaining Blood Claw Iron Cavalry fell into panic, their formation collapsing. The other 10 White Falcons seized the opportunity and charged in, explosions bursting one after another. In less than 30 seconds, all 12 Iron Steeds of the Blood Alliance were annihilated. Damn it, a bunch of useless trash. The commander on the bridge roared, "Come here." His subordinates quickly presented the nano belt and the Iron Steed key, but the commander was taken aback and then kicked it away. What the hell do I need this for? Get me Phone Ling's communication. I need to ask her what to do now. At this moment, Lien had already brought over 30 Iron Steeds to the front lines. Concentrate fire. Attack in waves. Call for battleship missile support. Keep them suppressed within 200 kilometers. We can't lock on. The flagship of the Blood Alliance, Rosanella, returned to her exclusive captain's quarters. Inside, there was a closed space, and upon opening the door, a very advanced interstellar communication device was revealed, known as the Star Hub Communication Array. A signal, encrypted multiple times, traversed the endless sea of stars. 10 seconds later, a blurred holographic projection gradually took shape. The image showed a middle-aged man dressed in silver-gray uniform adorned with an unknown emblem. The emblem bore a 5-part resemblance to the current Blood Alliance. His face was hidden in the interplay of light and shadow, not fully revealed. Only a pair of deep, penetrating eyes were clearly visible, calmly resting on Rosanella. Rosanella, you activated the Star Hub emergency link. It seems there are matters you cannot handle. Rosanella slightly lowered her head. General, target number 1163 from the 7th list is isolated and is currently being encircled by my fleet. Encircled? Isolated? How confident are you? The local allied forces are concerning and unable to complete the hunt. Requesting authorization to use the return protocol with a class sanctum force intervention. For target number 1163. Are we initiating a one-time return? Yes. Rosanella raised her head. General, we cannot miss this opportunity. The Jonbei family does not know I am here. Is that the only reason? The man's voice was steady but carried a subtle warning. Rosanella, have you considered that this might be a trap? Your decision is too rash. Sometimes, one needs to look at the bigger picture. I've been taught, teacher. I am merely basing my decision on what is most beneficial for the organization. After a brief silence, the man's voice emerged. Very well. There is a ship carrying the return protocol of the Thunderstorm class, 1 light year from the critical point of Zhuanbei. I authorize you to activate the return protocol. Remember, Rosaniella, when targeting for elimination, do not expose the organization's characteristics. Proceed with utmost caution. I cannot stress this enough. The communication was cut off, and the holographic image dissipated. When she returned to the bridge, 9 crimson lights representing the Zhuanbei Knights were continuously maneuvering around the fleet, penetrating the hastily constructed defenses of the coalition. The beleaguered cavalry, marked by blue beacons representing their own units, was dimming at an unprecedented speed, disappearing. Report. The entire squadron of the villain gang's cavalry has been wiped out. The engine of the Black Sail Razor-class cruiser has been breached, and the defensive formation has collapsed. The enemy cavalry cannot be locked on, and their trajectories cannot be predicted. Various urgent reports echoed. The power of Zhuanbei and the fear it instilled were continuously growing and spreading. Rosaniella sat back in the captain's seat, her emerald eyes scanning the tactical display, her mind fully aware. It must be said that Fengling's command level exhibited the style of a professional fleet commander, although the Zhuanbei Knights were incomparable. The space for maneuver was compressed to within 150 kilometers under the bombardment and encirclement of the fleet, and it was still shrinking. At the very least, Zhuanbei had begun to employ long-range weapons. Report the situation. How long until the Imperial Navy arrives? Estimated 12 minutes. However, at that moment, the tactical officer reported in a state of panic. Not good. The encirclement has been breached. 2 battleships of the Black Sail have lost power. They are coming towards us. In the void, several streams of light broke through the blockade, racing towards their formation within 50 kilometers. Andre's intention was as clear as day, to decapitate the command center. He aimed to crush the leaders of this ragtag group with absolute force before the Navy arrived. Let Byron lead the charge. As Rosaniella finished speaking and was about to issue further orders, a secure communication came through. Leader, there is a shocking discovery behind the Rachel Vault. Time rewound a few minutes. Outside the rudimentary port, 5 kilometers from the depths of the Rachel Vault, Lu Ling gazed at the distant flames of battle, murmuring softly, "Fight. Fight. Best to fight to the death." He wished for the 3 factions to engage in a life-and-death struggle. As the port drew nearer, the vastness of space appeared before him, and his expression sharpened, his gaze locking onto Silver Luan, detecting pirate heat sources approaching. "Silver Luan, you have the strongest combat capability. Immediately take your team to intercept at the C7 power conduit." Zavina replied in unison. "Chin, Gira, you two go assist." The two immediately stepped forward, standing before Silver Luan. Their coordination was seamless, almost as if they were about to say, "After you." Seeing this, Silver Luan looked at Lu Ling and silently turned away. "Zavina, you all go find an assault craft." Lu Ling exchanged a glance, and Zavina understood, leading her team away. But not before Greenleaf cast a deep look at Lu Ling. In an instant, at the entrance of the passage, only Lu Ling remained. At this moment, he could no longer suppress the excitement within him. After drifting over 500 meters from the port, he found an extremely open space. His consciousness sank into the system. Open the hangar. Detected available docking space. Activate the Death Vortex class. Activate. An invisible yet immense force suddenly expanded around him, causing the space in front of him to distort violently, creating ripples like water waves. But soon, these ripples abruptly calmed, as if nothing had happened. "Where's the ship?" Lu Ling squinted his eyes and activated the jet mode. He hovered in the cold void, surrounded by shattered asteroids and the flickering lights of distant battlefields. The airspace before him was silent, empty except for floating dust and debris. Activation completed, the system's prompt caught him off guard, and then a thought flashed through his mind like lightning. Could it be cloaked? In Eve, each time one crosses a stargate, there is a brief cloaking mechanism. The system he possessed was, after all, a more advanced type of stargate. Sure enough, in the system's asset list, the operational options for the Death Vortex class had lit up. Boarding buzz. The previously empty void in front of Lu Ling suddenly underwent an indescribable distortion. The space began to crack like fragile glass, extending slowly from the center towards both sides, revealing an armor as heavy and majestic as a mountain. From this vantage point, the enormous hull seemed endless. The 430-meter-wide ship presented itself like a moving mountain, instantly blocking the light of distant stars, casting a massive shadow over Lu Ling and the entire port. On the towering 395-meter hull, through the portholes, layers of majestic decks could be seen. Finally, there were the breathtaking solar wings. They slowly extended from both sides of the hull, the tips emerging above the asteroids, with their surfaces covered in dark energy absorption panels, currently shimmering with a ghostly blue energy flow, greedily absorbing energy. The entire process felt like slow motion, yet was completed in a matter of seconds. When the Death Vortex class fully revealed its terrifying and colossal form, the visual impact was devastating. The two already mounted 1,200 millimeters cannons, with 25-meter-long barrels, exuded a chilling aura of death. The shadow cast by the Death Vortex nearly covered half of the port. All floating dust and debris seemed insignificant in the face of this absolute volume and mass. It was a beauty of absolute power that could make any witness's heart stop and their soul tremble. Lu Ling hovered beneath the shadow of this steel behemoth, gazing up in awe. The intense shock even made him temporarily forget to breathe, although all of this was triggered by him. Witnessing such a massive interstellar battleship descend into reality because of a single thought was an indescribable impact. In the distance, Zavina, along with Wayla and others, had just found an old assault boat that was barely usable and was preparing to return to pick up Lu Ling suddenly. An indescribable, deep humming sound, as if coming from the depths of the universe, sent a chilling sensation through them, followed by a terrifying distortion of space in the empty area of the distant port. What is that? Everyone instinctively looked up, their pupils instantly constricting. In the distance, the void shattered, and a massive shadow, so large it was suffocating, slowly descended. Beneath the shadow, only the sound of throats swallowing could be heard. Was this a battleship? The shadow spread like a tide, quickly engulfing the light in their area, shrouding the entire airspace in a cold darkness. They floated like ants beneath this suddenly descending shadow, gazing up at the steel starship, their minds blank, forgetting even to breathe. Unheard and unseen. This was not the style of any known faction's ship they recognized. Its posture, filled with absolute violence and a sense of oppression, seemed to come from a distant star realm that only existed in legends. Could it be the captain? Vera's voice trembled with disbelief. This was the only possibility they could think of, because that was where Lu Ling was. Let's go? Even though Savina had long known that Lu Ling possessed unfathomable power, at this moment, she was still overwhelmed with shock. It was too big. What Lu Ling had taken out was larger each time, now so immense it defied imagination. Meanwhile, A corner of the port's abandoned pipeline was suddenly smashed open. What the hell is this place? Didn't I say to go through the B6 passage? An elite pirate, cursing and covered in grease, was the first to crawl out. His clothes were from the Blood Alliance, clearly lost in the chaos. All right. Just getting out is good enough, damn it. I've lived over 60 years, and this is the first time I've encountered a place with no signal. Hurry up and find a way back. His companions followed him out, but as he spoke halfway, he suddenly froze, as if an invisible giant hand had gripped his throat. Move. Don't block the entrance. Shadows filled the back of the pipeline, pushing and shoving, cursing in the channel. When they finally crawled out and looked up, everyone gaped. Their heads tilted back, as if petrified. Their vision was completely filled with an infinitely extending, dark steel wall that rose upward and stretched sideways without end. Further away was an endless expanse of heavy armored edges, and above that, the hull rose majestically like a mountain. The shadow cast by the giant ship completely engulfed them, the cold despair tightening around their throats. The first pirate's box slipped from his hand, drifting into the void. His legs felt weak, if not for the weightlessness. He would have collapsed to the ground. What the hell? Is this a cargo ship of the Red Devil? No way. Is this still Rachel's lair? Someone looked back. The passage was dark, but there was a faint blue light flickering. Have we crossed over? Look, there's a symbol. There's a person. Hiss. On the armored belly of the ship behind the solar wings, a circular emblem composed of several wedge-shaped blocks slowly appeared. This was neither the Empire's emblem nor that of the Wanbei Navy. Through the visual system of their nano-armor, they saw a tiny figure slowly squeezing into an opening hatch, which then closed, blocking out the light inside. When they looked up at the massive battleship again, the sky was dark and the structure was indestructible. Chapter 84, Aura. Lu Ling's jetpack propelled him forward, like a tiny insect, flying towards the vortex of death. The closer he got, the more he could feel the suffocating enormity, every inch telling the story of pure industrial power and the aesthetics of war. As he approached the belly of the ship, a massive armored plate silently slid open, revealing a brightly lit landing passage inside. A faint blue energy field flowed along the edge of the passage entrance, isolating the external vacuum from the ship's interior environment. As Lu Ling passed through the energy field, he felt a slight weight as artificial gravity took over his body, allowing him to land steadily on the cold metal deck. Is this the hangar? He murmured to himself instinctively, his voice not even echoing in the vast emptiness around him. The sight before him took his breath away. It was astonishingly high. A preliminary estimate suggested its volume far exceeded 3,000 cubic meters, resembling a meticulously planned gigantic hall. The dome soared over 100 meters high, and from a distance, the deck extended deep into the ship, almost beyond sight, creating an illusion that the internal space was much larger than it appeared from the outside. Cold white or dim yellow high-intensity lighting panels were embedded in the dome and walls, casting uniform and bright light that made every inch of metal and deck shine, reflecting a unique cold glow. Beneath his feet was a heavy anti-slip alloy deck, clearly marked with various functional areas and passage routes. Several heavy magnetic tracks were deeply embedded in the deck, crisscrossing towards deeper maintenance areas, evidently designed for the rapid movement of large equipment. At the edges, hundreds of meters away, he could see several massive maintenance docks equipped with complex mechanical arms and energy interfaces. At the end, a pattern of a frigate was displayed, clearly indicating a dedicated hangar for docking frigates. Numerous automated mechanical units silently moved along preset tracks and ceiling rails, performing inspections, cleaning, or transportation tasks. There were no noisy voices, only the low hum of machinery and the subtle sounds of mechanical units moving with precision. Lu Ling stood still, feeling as small as an ant in the Hall of Giants. He gazed up at this magnificent creation, once again deeply realizing that the technology and power level of the Vortex-class ship he possessed far exceeded his initial imagination. The True Eve warships were far more soul-stirring and overwhelming than they appeared in the game. Just then, a drone, about the size of a basketball and featuring a streamlined matte silver-white design, silently glided in front of him. A faint blue core at its center flickered with a soft glow. It stopped steadily about a meter away from him. Immediately, a gentle blue light cone projected down from the bottom of the drone, forming a clear holographic interface on the deck before him. At the same time, a familiar, gentle, and professional electronic female voice began to speak. Biometric scan complete, neuron matching confirmed, authorization verification alpha, captain identity confirmed. Welcome, Captain Lu Ling. The first onboard certification procedure is starting. I am your onboard intelligent assistance unit, Advanced Artificial Intelligence. Codename, Aura. I will assist you in understanding the basics of the Death Spiral-class battleship, system operations, and subsequent strategic decision support. You now have the highest command authority on this ship. Immediately, a drone approached and handed Lu Ling a very simple wristband. After putting it on, the holographic projection became incredibly clear, almost like reality. Ship status, star map navigation, energy system, drone weapon control, engineering system, storage management. Aura's voice continued to smoothly introduce, stating that she is the best navigator and novice mentor. Conducting initial ship status diagnosis. Warning, the current equipment configuration of the ship is severely insufficient. Main weapon slots, 216. Secondary weapon slots, 026. Large missile launchers, 016. Modification slots, 08. High energy slots, 016. Medium energy slots, 012. Low energy slots, 010. Clone stop. Stop. Aura, I'm an experienced pilot. Take me to the bridge. Aura's presence, along with the series of system interfaces and guided processes reminiscent of a certain game, instantly pulled Lu Ling back from the shock of facing a colossal object, bringing him into a familiar yet incredibly novel role as captain. This was no longer a game. Yet everything felt like an incredibly real life and death game. System, I love you. Command confirmed. Navigation path has been planned. Please follow me. Captain, Aura silently turned and smoothly floated forward, leading the way for Lu Ling. The blue light cone it projected created clear arrow indicators on the deck. At the same time, a small silver-gray anti-gravity hoverboard floated over. Lu Ling took a deep breath, stepped on it, and the surface of the board shimmered, immediately adjusting to his weight and stance, providing stable support. This was a very long main passage, with cold white lighting streaking by at high speed, enhancing the sense of spatial depth. Thick composite armored airlock doors opened as they approached and quickly closed after they passed, isolating each functional area behind them. The passage was not constant. There were inclines and steps, and every so often there were forked paths, making Lu Ling feel as if he were traversing a vast, intricate steel city. Each route piqued his curiosity about where it led, but for now, the main task was to reach the bridge. There would be plenty of time later. Since it wasn't at high speed, they arrived at an exceptionally wide ascending passage square after 10 minutes. The square was circular, lined with at least 30 heavy-duty elevators, each marked with different functional area identifiers. Aura led him to one elevator labeled CIC-001. CIC stands for the command center, and 001 likely indicates that it is the first elevator for the command center. The elevator doors slid open silently, revealing silver-white metallic walls and a simple control interface, spacious enough to accommodate dozens of people. Lu Ling followed Aura inside, and the elevator began to ascend smoothly, taking him to the true command hub of this massive vessel. He quietly observed the floors. Incredible, there were 72 decks just on this side. Within seconds, they reached the top, and the door slid open to reveal a somewhat spacious command platform, roughly the size of 2 basketball courts. At the front was a circular alloy door with a diameter of 6 meters. Aura continued forward. The alloy door opened layer by layer. Lu Ling stepped into the command center. The first impact was the temperature. The air here was at least 5 degrees cooler than in the hangar, carrying a metallic chill filtered through the circulation system. The second was the hum of instruments and equipment. The space was elongated and oval-shaped, about 50 meters long, 120 meters at its widest, and 25 meters high, with 3 levels, topped by a massive observation window. Outside the window, he could see the deep universe and distant flashes of battle. He was currently on the 2nd level, with a clear view of the level below. Aura, how many positions are there in the command center of the Death Spiral class vessel? Captain, in standard mode, there are 165 positions, including Captain's Aide, Operations Officer, Executive Officer, Tactical Officer, Intelligence Officer, Communications Officer, Navigation Control Officer, Tactical Navigation Officer, Propulsion System Engineer, Damage Control Center. In auxiliary mode, at least 28 positions are required. In cloning mode, a link to Alpha or Omega neuron hubs is necessary. Neuron hubs, huh? Lu Ling pondered, take me there. Aura floated toward the 3rd level command seat. From here, he had a full view of the 2nd and 1st levels, with the starry sky above being breathtaking. All positions in the core control area of the 3rd level were vacant, but the screens continuously rolled with data streams, evidently managed directly by Aura. The captain's seat was large and distinctive, even resembling a small 4th level. As he approached, the captain's seat began to descend, and an oval-shaped space pod with a diameter of about 3 meters slightly rose, revealing a cultured dish inside. Lu Ling noticed that there were numerous thick and precise light beam cables surrounding the pod, clearly connecting to all systems of this massive vessel. The culture dish was not cylindrical. It was merely referred to as such. At the position where one would lie down, there were 5 circular valves, which Lu Ling had discovered thousands of years ago, but never understood their function. Captain, you have not undergone Alpha or Omega neuron modifications. The key point is that you do not have a clone body. Neuron link mode is not recommended. Fortunately, Aura spoke up in time. Lu Ling almost stepped inside. At a critical moment, Captain, you can use the cloning control pod for emergency ejection. So that's how it is. The ship and Eve can operate normally and can also enter a pod, but it requires an Alpha or Omega clone body. Does that mean I could clone myself then? Huh, it feels a bit strange. Lu Ling pondered while stroking his chin. The space pod slowly descended, and the captain's seat appeared again. He took a deep breath and sat down. The seat automatically conformed to the curve of his spine, and the side support modules made slight adjustments, with the identity verifier on the armrest glowing faintly. After 200 days of awakening, Lu Ling finally occupied this position. He looked around, and everywhere his gaze reached was the vast universe filled with stars. At that time, when he stole the star chart of the Night Orchid, he had vowed that one day, Ola, load the star chart. Lu Ling took out an old wristband, which was a symbol of the chief mechanic of the Night Orchid, now showing signs of wear from time. Star chart database has been linked. Star chart of the Partia Empire has been fully loaded. Buzz. In the next moment, a massive holographic screen appeared clearly before him. Countless bluish light points converging like a waking galaxy. The public routes, beacons, space stations, planets, and colonial satellites of the Zhuangbai and Koshi constellations. The star chart continuously zoomed in and out following Lu Ling's gaze, its detail and vastness resembling the intricate threads of a spider's web, connecting millions of stellar systems. It felt as if he was suspended above the galaxy, gazing down at billions of stars. When he sat in this chair, his will became the new direction. From now on, the galaxy would have no chains, and the universe would be a smooth path. The vast ocean of stars was boundless, and I was unrestrained, reaching everywhere. Chapter 85. Homecoming. Zavina cautiously operated the assault boat, slowly approaching the colossal object. The narrow cockpit was filled with curious and beautiful faces. In the girl's pupils, the breathtaking grand outline outside was reflected, as if a miracle had descended. Just then, Lu Ling's communication came through, this time with an incredibly clear zero latency, free of the previous static. Zavina, do you see the navigation lights at the port side magnet anchor area 3? Move closer, I will open the entrance for you. His voice was calm, even carrying a hint of casualness. Amidst the astonished gazes of everyone, Zavina instinctively adjusted the control stick. The assault boat skillfully slid sideways, gliding past the enormous solar sail of the Death Vortex-class battleship, slowly approaching the row of orange indicator lights flashing in a regular pattern on the port armor deck. Suddenly, a powerful magnetic force captured the assault boat, completely automating the subsequent operations. Look over there. Denise suddenly pointed ahead. The surface of the heavy armor plate lit up with striking red light at the tightly sealed seams, and a 10-meter-high entrance slowly opened, revealing a bright and clean passage inside. The edges of the passage glowed with a blue energy field, perfectly isolating the internal and external environments. This was a standard, efficient landing interface. The assault boat smoothly entered the passage, captured by gravity. As they fully entered, the armored panels behind them began to close, sealing off the cold universe completely. The crew inside was still immersed in the shock and the sudden smooth docking, feeling somewhat at a loss. With a faint hiss, the airlock door opened, and Zavina led everyone off the assault craft, each face reflecting confusion and amazement. Greenleaf was the first to take off her helmet. The cool oxygen mixed with a hint of metallic scent. This was a small transfer platform, roughly the size of a small parking lot, with cold railings at the edges. Looking down from here, one could see the vast and magnificent hangar deck. Ahead was a wide corridor extending to the horizon, with cold white illumination strips stretching endlessly. The entire space was spacious and clean, filled with the aesthetic of efficient industry and mechanical power. In the distance, several automated mechanical units were running along the ceiling tracks. What caught the eye the most was an open anti-gravity hover vehicle quietly parked beside the platform, along with the figure leaning against it. Lu Ling casually leaned against the vehicle, his eyes showing a hint of fatigue, but the excitement at the corners of his mouth was hard to conceal. He looked quite swift. His gaze swept over the girls, who still bore expressions of shock and disbelief, and he opened his arms, raising his voice. Ladies, welcome aboard my ship. Surprised? Unexpected? After a brief silence, the girls' expressions quickly shifted from initial strangeness and shock to incredulous surprise, ultimately transforming into intense excitement and joy. Their eyes sparkling. Wow, Captain, you're invincible. Little lowly Li Hua cheered, directly throwing herself into Lu Ling's embrace. Is this a battleship? She asked, looking up with bright eyes. Lu Ling ruffled her hair and scanned the faces filled with excitement and trust. This is our battleship, he corrected. The starry sea is boundless. In the future, there may be hardships and obstacles, but through storms, it will be your shield, your sword, and your home where you can sleep peacefully. Home. Greenleaf subconsciously repeated. The word felt particularly warm in the cold air, yet so unfamiliar. Lu Ling's gaze softened as he looked at each face still bearing traces of shock, yet filled with longing. Yes, home. After drifting for so long, we finally have a place to settle. Zavina echoed the word, her usually cold expression breaking into a smile. Only she knew how arduous the journey had been. Lu Ling had to submit to Feng Ling's tyranny to acquire the fruit, experiencing life and death chases in Blackwater Bay twice. In her smile, there was a sense of relief from shedding burdens, along with a deep-rooted sense of belonging quietly taking root in her heart. At this moment, the word home resonated heavily in the softest part of her being. Vera and Dennis exchanged glances, seeing the same excitement and moisture in each other's eyes. They gathered around, their faces beaming with the exhilaration of surviving a disaster and an indescribable pride. Lu Ling, in the middle, rubbed his nose. Hee, this is the feeling I wanted. Ola fluttered over. Welcome aboard, passengers. Visitor detected. Female human life, Form 8. Access level. Visitor, no. Ola, they're not visitors. Lu Ling coughed a couple of times, his expression turning serious. Ola, grant Shiwena level 1 access, identity verification, captain's aid. Shiwena immediately stepped forward. Grant LVE level 2 access. Identity verification, chief medical officer. LVE smiled brightly. Grant others level 2 access, identity verification, senior core members. Then Lu Ling changed the subject. Have you all learned the skill books I gave you? We have. But Captain, Gira, and Qin haven't returned yet. Lu Ling slapped his forehead. Deep in the passage, at the intersection of the C7 power conduit, Yin Liang's figure darted between the thick pipes, moving lightly. With the enhancement of level 5 armor, her perception was like the most precise radar, locking onto the subtle heat fluctuations and breaths coming from around the corner ahead. Qin and Gira followed closely, back to back, their pulse rifles scanning the flanks and shadows behind them. So strong, it feels like we're useless. Qin muttered softly. They hadn't fired a single shot along the way. No need to feel that way. Gira said seriously. The captain said this is called a god teammate, who can lead the whole team to victory. God teammate. Then what are we? 3 heat sources are rapidly approaching. Yin Liang's cold voice echoed in the encrypted channel. Engage the enemy. Before her words fell, 3 figures in Blood Alliance uniforms, armed with pulse rifles, suddenly rushed out from around the corner, sprinting the short distance of just a few dozen meters, clearly well prepared. However, crack! A blinding silver arc tore through the dim passage. Triple kill. Yin Liang sheathed her sword with a flick of her hand. The next moment, 5 heat sources were approaching. Engage the enemy. Crack. Pentakill. The sword light vanished again. 10 heat sources were approaching. Danger. I'll engage alone. Yin Liang disappeared in an instant to their side. Qin wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by Gira. The captain said, when you have a god teammate leading, just lie down and relax. Lie down. Qin was puzzled, then suddenly realized, oh no, I didn't load the energy magazine. Just then, Lu Ling's figure appeared at the entrance of the passage. He needed to rendezvous with Yin Liang, and then have dinner with the young master of the Zhuangbai family to discuss a business deal worth billions. Very busy. The death vortex was temporarily left to Shiwena. Let her go out and hunt, practice her skills. You all go to the exit. No need to wait for me. Understood, Captain. Gira remained serious as always. Oh. Qin felt a bit reluctant. It was hard to reunite with Lu Ling this time, and they had said less than they did before at the collection station. It felt like things had changed a bit. Was it because of the god teammate? However, after walking a few steps, Qin suddenly turned back. Boss, I haven't eaten in a long time. Lu Ling, gradually disappearing into the shadows of the passage, stumbled, deep in the solitary grave base. The pipelines were intricate and the shadows thick. Brother, this way. The navigation indicated that the meeting point was at the 3rd turn. Zhao Hu lowered his voice and shouted to the back, clutching an old data pad that flickered intermittently. Zhao Long huffed along behind him, loaded with various scavenged gear. And both of them were even wearing uniforms of a certain organization. After all, this place was filled with their members. It turned out that they were the ones who had cut in line on the Night Orchid. And they were also the subordinates that Lu Ling had casually picked up when Justin betrayed them, known as the Dragon Tiger Brothers. The raid on the solitary grave base was no better than the small vessel they had seen earlier. Their assault craft made a forced landing on a sturdy armored platform, taking 5 minutes to find the entrance. As for the meeting point, it was naturally provided by Qin. After all, they were Lu Ling's subordinates. Although the details of this operation had not been disclosed, the two of them had figured it out. I just saw the boss of Bloodshark, Zhao Hu muttered quietly. Did you call out? Zhao Long asked, panting. No, I saw him almost get into a fight with our organization. Is our boss betraying the leader? Zhao Long slapped the back of his head. What betrayal? People strive for higher ground while water flows below. We owe the chief our lives. Otherwise, we would have. Zhao Hu sighed. Bro, when do you think we can become as strong as Sister Zuena? Don't think about useless things. First, let's keep our lives safe. Zhao Long was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly fell silent, yanking Zhao Hu into the shadows of a nearby large pipe. Hide. There's movement. Just as they squeezed in, they heard a very brief sound of fighting and several muffled screams from the other end of the passage. Demon, run. Then there was the dull thud of something heavy hitting the ground, and afterward, everything fell back into silence. A figure slowly stepped out from the firelight. A chilling, blood-scented aura spread like a tangible force, making Zhao Hu and Zhao Long's hair stand on end as they tightly covered their mouths, not daring to breathe. Footsteps, extremely faint. They came from around the corner of the passage, slow and steady, approaching the direction where they were hiding. The shadow glimpsed in their peripheral vision grew longer. Zhao Long secretly peeked out, but as soon as he caught a glimpse, he quickly pulled back, his face turning paper white, cold sweat pouring down. What's wrong, bro? Zhao Hu asked in a trembling voice. Zhao Long pressed his lips tightly together, barely able to make a sound, and could only despairingly gesture with his lips. Killer. Zhao Hu's face turned pale. Clearly, the reputation of the figure had already spread among the elite members of the organization that had infiltrated. At the corner, the silhouette slowly emerged. Under the flickering flames, standing tall in black level 5 nano armor that shimmered fleetingly, and with a cloak gently fluttering behind. Her left hand lightly rested on the hilt of her sword. The ghostly blue light band on her faceplate, devoid of any warmth, swept across the empty passage. Her steps did not pause, heading straight towards the shadows where the Dragon Tiger brothers were hiding. Clearly, their concealment was as good as non-existent in her perception. They were merely avoiding revealing themselves to meet their doom. Despair instantly seized the hearts of the two brothers. Run. Zhao Hu could no longer hold back, letting out a strange cry as he rolled and crawled towards the other end of the pipe. Be careful. He tried to grab hold, but was a moment too late. Yin Liang's cold gaze swept over the two men in their Blood Alliance uniforms, noticing their panic-stricken faces devoid of any fighting spirit. His right hand gripped the hilt of his sword. Just as the situation became critical, a calm, yet undeniably powerful voice echoed from the other end of the passage. Yin Liang, spare them. Hearing this, Yin Liang slowly withdrew his right hand. Lu Ling stepped out from the shadows, glancing at the terrified Zhao Hu and Zhao Long. Then turning to Yin Liang. They are my people. Zhao Hu gasped for breath, collapsing to the ground, clutching his throat and coughing violently. Zhao Long also sank to the ground, cold sweat soaking his back. This person was too strong and terrifying. Boss. The two quickly scrambled to their feet, addressing him in unison. Lu Ling looked down at their disheveled appearance and couldn't help but shake his head. Zhao Long was covered in various weapons from the Blood Alliance, likely having picked up a few boxes along the way. Nevertheless, it was commendable that they had ventured deep into this dangerous and dilapidated lair, risking collapse at any moment, just to meet him. At least their loyalty was evident at this moment. Look at you two, still wearing the Blood Alliance combat uniforms. Perfect. Saves me the trouble of finding people. Go to the back quickly, there might still be time. Huh. Zhao Hu was confused. Zhao Long quickly agreed, and pulled Zhao Hu away. He understood that the current duo of brothers was not yet capable of assisting Lu Ling. Meanwhile, Lu Ling looked at Yin Liang's sword, intrigued. How much energy is left? Upon hearing this, Yin Liang pressed lightly on the hilt, causing an energy crystal to pop out, emitting blue smoke as it fell to the ground. I've used it at least 50 or 60 times along the way. She then skillfully loaded a new energy crystal. Don't you have a spare? Can I borrow it for a bit? Please be mindful. General Andre's order is for me to ensure your safety. How stingy. Fine, let's go. I guess your boss will be here soon. What Qin said is true. I am a bit hungry after not eating for a few days. Chapter 86. Dawn. The cosmic battlefield had turned into a chaotic inferno of flames. The 9 White Falcon-class Iron Riders led by Andre moved like 9 white lightning bolts, weaving through the massive fleet of the pirate coalition. Their maneuvering trajectories were unpredictable, and each appearance inevitably resulted in the paralysis of a pirate Iron Rider or damage to a warship. Report. The engine of the Black Sail Razor cruiser has been penetrated, and the defensive formation has a gap. The enemy Iron Riders have broken through. The Evil Gang's Iron Rider squad has been wiped out. Various urgent reports echoed on the bridge of the Night Orchid as they faced the elite Night Squad of Zhuangbai for the first time. Even with Feng Ling in command, panic was quietly spreading. Wolves among the sheep. Feng Ling sat at the captain's seat, her expression icy. A communication came through from one side before the person even appeared. Feng Ling, you didn't tell me that Zhuangbai's people would intervene before I came. Now my men are almost dead. What about your damn plan? If this continues, don't blame me for withdrawing first. I've done all I can. You can't escape. Fleeing in battle means no mercy. Feng Ling said coldly. I will redirect the fleet's fire, prioritizing your evil gang. You sweeten the deal after hitting me. Feng Ling's tone softened slightly. As for Rachel's treasure, I'll let your evil gang take an extra 10%. The big-eyed monster stared, visibly softening in attitude. After a few seconds, he coldly snorted and ended the communication. Humph? Treasure? By the time the Navy arrives, it will all be over. I can only play with you for another 10 minutes at most. Just then, the tactical officer urgently reported. The cavalry has breached the third line of defense and is approaching the command array. Before Feng Ling could respond, another communication came in. It was the Sir from the Black Sail. Commander Feng Ling, when will we destroy the base? The Razor's engine is damaged. I request an immediate evacuation. Feng Ling's fingers lightly tapped on the armrest, a cold glint flashing in her orange-hued eyes. Sir, the Razor is now the most crucial part of our defense. The Navy could arrive at any moment. Evacuating now would be seeking death. Even though he was refused, the Sir's voice remained steady. Though a bit heavier, the Razor has lost its regular power. If this goes on, the jump engine will be lost too. Commander Feng Ling, I will not stand by and watch my people be slaughtered. War always requires sacrifice, sir. Feng Ling's voice was eerily calm. I am the fleet commander, and I order the Razor to hold its ground. The Sir took a deep breath. Are you using my Black Sail Razor as a sacrifice to the Navy? The cavalry must pass through there to reach us. Feng Ling's tone was unyielding, and her imposing presence made the Sir narrow his eyes. Either sacrifice the Razor, or our command structure will be annihilated. The choice is yours. After a brief silence, the Sir quietly said, I want double compensation for losses. I decide. Your Black Sail can take an extra 10% of Rachel's wealth. The communication ended, and Feng Ling looked towards the battlefield, issuing orders to the entire fleet. All ships reorganized their defensive formation with the Razor at the core, circling 150 kilometers around it, concentrating fire to block the cavalry's maneuvering route. Do not worry about collateral damage. Chief, the tactical officer hesitated, needing to confirm again. Execute the order. Understood. On the Razor's bridge, panic was spreading. Boss, Feng Ling rejected our evacuation order. The captain of the Razor suddenly stood up. How is that possible? I clearly consulted the Sir. Does Feng Ling not even give the Sir face? Before he finished speaking, a white streak, like the hand of death, swept past the ship's body, and several gun turrets ignited. The engines are completely disabled. That woman Feng Ling wants to make us targets. Report. The Blood Alliance's escort ship is firing at us. The radar officer's voice almost broke. They say it's by Commander Feng Ling's orders to block the cavalry's maneuvering route. The bridge fell into dead silence. Everyone understood what this meant. They were being used as bait, mere pawns that had to be sacrificed. Give me the flagship of the Black Sail. I want to speak directly with the Sir. The next moment, the Sir's holographic projection appeared. His famed, aged face appeared particularly grave as he held his ground. This was an order. But the knight? The engine? Your families will receive triple compensation. The knight severed communications, leaving the Razor's bridge in a desperate silence. On the holographic tactical display, several fleets of the pirate coalition had completed the encirclement order around Phoenix Bell, with the Razor and the Joan Bay Knights locked in the center. Just then, the ship shuddered violently, and a white falcon knight appeared on the side of the bridge. Its cold, white streamlined body flickered with a chilling aura under the faint light of the star. The wrecking gun in its hand directly targeted the armored section of the protective jump device. Boom. Prepare for impact. Intense fire filled everyone's pupils, and their bodies uncontrollably tilted to one side. Amidst the violent explosion, the navigation officer shouted in despair, the jump engine is completely damaged. The captain of the Razor looked at the approaching white knight, and then at the friendly forces surrounding him, slumping in his chair with a bitter, sorrowful smile. In the fleet channel, Phoenix Bell's indifferent voice came through. Fire together. Inside the cockpit of the White Falcon-class command machine, Andre was calmly observing the battlefield changes. The tactical map was densely populated with crimson signals encircling them, and several high-speed maneuvering knights dared not approach from afar. General, the pirate fleet is restructuring its formation centered around the Razor. The deputy commander's voice came through. They seem willing to sink friendly forces to block our maneuvering space. Their reckless passage through the pirate coalition's lines is intended to intimidate these pirates, as guns are indiscriminate. Once any party makes a mistake, this temporary alliance is bound to fracture. Have you located the enemy fleet's high-frequency transmission core nodes? We have locked onto 4 main nodes, with the strongest frequency characteristic located 177 kilometers away, originating from a Nebula Shark-class destroyer. It could be a decoy node, but it cannot be overlooked. We must take it out first. Andre's grayish-white eyes turned towards the night orchid. All personnel, prepare for dawn. Order confirmed. Dawn mode is initiating preheating. 9 streams of light dodged the heavy flames below as the Razor exploded with a roar. The dawn formation was ready, the moment the order was given. The superconducting capacitor arrays built into the 9 White Falcon Knights entered an emergency overload state. The miniature cold fusion reactor's output surged to its peak, with massive energy flooding into the superfluid helium cooling system, producing a low, humming sound from the body, while the heat dissipation grills expelled low-temperature ion flames. Dawn deployed. The hydraulic locks on the armor plates of the Knight's backs and shoulders released, revealing intricate internal structures. The active phase change cooling units extended first, atomizing liquid metal gallium to form an evaporative cooling film on the weapon's surface. The light hammer-class laser core began charging. The multi-segment free electron laser generators rose from beneath the armor, with superconducting acceleration rings flashing a dangerous light. Eject the navigator's phase drones. 9 high-speed data link drones were ejected from the Knight's designated mounting points, swiftly flying to the predetermined airspace to form a massive distributed optical interference reference array. Drones interconnect via lasers, forming a precise space-time reference network to synchronize the fire control clocks of all units with picosecond accuracy. A long constraint channel is generated, and the designated targeting cursor begins to ascend. The dawn formation is complete. Energy levels have reached the firing threshold. Phase synchronization is complete. Launch. A robust, nearly pure white ultra-high energy short pulse laser bursts forth from the core of the dawn laser. Its energy so immense that it ionizes the space particles along its path, visually creating a distorted, dazzling light column. At Andre's command, this spear of light, tearing through the void, shoots towards the Yangtze as the command node at a speed beyond sight. Report. Ultra-high energy attack detected. The tactical officer almost simultaneously roars. Impact on our ship in 3 seconds. Feng Ling's orange-hued pupils suddenly constrict, but her voice remains cold and unwavering. All personnel brace for impact. Overload all inertial stabilizers. Engineering, divert all available energy to the rear lateral thrusters. Full power deflection at 70 degrees to starboard. Her orders are clear. Sacrifice other parts to preserve the most critical jump engine and as much structural integrity as possible. The inertial stabilizers arranged by Lu Ling instantly burst forth with dazzling light, and under the thrust of the lateral engines. The location of the rear jump engine is deflected by several degrees. The next second, a massive beam strikes. The 2 destroyers in front of the Yangtze are directly penetrated. The entire Yangtze emits a painful metallic groan, its massive hull twisting violently in the void. The reinforced structures modified by Lu Ling are put to the ultimate test at this moment, with sparks flying from the seams of the armor. The impact point seems to instantly give birth to a miniature sun, its extreme brightness consuming everything. Nearly 1/3 of the structure on the port side of the Yangtze vaporizes instantly, including armor, compartments, turrets, and sensor arrays. The entire bridge is shaken violently. Everyone is firmly secured in their seats, watching the flames surge and smoke billow. Signals from portside engines 1, 3, and 5 are lost. The armor from D3 to D7 on the port side is completely destroyed. Emergency isolation has been initiated. The ship's armor damage is at 33. Structural damage on the port side is at 18. 6 weapon systems on the port side are offline. The front cosmic wave radar array has been destroyed. Damage control is still frantically reporting. The bridge is in chaos. Smoke fills the air, sparks shoot from the broken control panels, and crew members groan in pain. Feng Ling remains firmly secured in her seat by safety restraints, her gaze calm and chilling. The Zhuang family indeed has deep roots. Such a destructive weapon can be assembled and launched with just a few iron steeds. Damage report for the entire ship. Damage control team prioritizes controlling the fire and pressure leaks. Medical team on standby. All able personnel, return to your posts immediately. The battle is not over. Feng Ling immediately connects to the engine communication. Wang Si, activate backup power. Light begins to return to the bridge. The smoke from overloaded electronic devices is swiftly drawn away by the restarted ventilation system, though some have already been completely destroyed. Her gaze swept across the chaotic bridge, finally landing on the rebooted holographic screen. There, the energy remnants from the dawn attack were still flickering, and the red dot representing the Andre cavalry was temporarily retreating to regroup due to the massive energy consumption. Leader, the fleet's communication is down to 30%. That's enough. Despite being heavily damaged, with a large section missing from the port bow and cracks spreading across its scorched armor, the Night Orchid was still struggling to turn and face the enemy under Feng Ling's will. At this moment, Lian's urgent communication came through. Leader, are you all right? I'm fine. The assault team hasn't reported back, so the situation must have changed. You must go to the Lonely Tomb base immediately and ensure Rachel and Sarah are dealt with. Understood. On the bridge, Feng Ling's gaze turned towards the distant flagship of the Blood Alliance. Rosaniella, aren't you going to take action? Chapter 87. The return the atmosphere on the Blood Alliance flagship's bridge was starkly different from the chaos aboard the Night Orchid. It was filled with a cold, almost frozen sense of lethal intent. Did you say you saw a battleship? But my radar isn't showing any response. Perhaps it's just the wreckage of a ship modified and pieced together by Rachel. Let's set that absurdity aside for now and move things out quickly. Rosaniella ended the communication, a fleeting hint of contemplation passing through her emerald eyes. She sensed something was amiss, but there was an even greater threat at hand. Leader, The command ship has sustained heavy damage. The communications officer's voice followed. On the tactical screen, the image of the struggling Night Orchid after sustaining severe damage was crystal clear, with Andre's White Falcon cavalry retreating to regroup due to energy depletion. Rosaniella did not respond immediately, remaining seated in the captain's chair. The usual laziness and amusement in her green eyes were replaced by a chilling intensity. Ah, Karanchta. She then lifted her head, her gaze sharpening like a knife. Her voice clear and cold. Authorize the highest command. All energy to charge weapon slot 1. A deep, textured hum resonated from below the captain's chair. A section of the deck in front of her slid open, revealing a device of ancient design that slowly rose. The base was crafted from a dark, dull obsidian, etched with incomprehensible, glowing, intricate patterns. Above the base, a fist-sized, slowly rotating deep jewel was being steadily supported. A neutral mechanical voice sounded. Please perform identity verification. Without hesitation, Rosaniella pressed her right palm against the cold surface of the jewel. Authorization for carbon-based individual detected. Voice print, genetic sequence, neural wave validation passed. Verification complete. Requesting final confirmation. Activate. Rosaniella's voice was resolute. Initiating return protocol. Return protocol activated. Calculating optimal hyperspace channel. Coordinates locked. With a soft click, the pedestal supporting the jewel suddenly split into 4 parts. And the jewel was abruptly drawn down by an unseen force, disappearing from sight. Star anchor catapult, almost simultaneously. The corresponding armored plate at the top of the bridge slid open quietly, and a streamlined silver-white capsule was violently ejected by high-pressure gas, shooting rapidly into the cold void of space. As soon as the beacon entered space, its shell quickly shed, revealing a precise core woven from pure light. Utilizing the last positioning data provided by the mothership, its miniature engines ignited to perform a final precise positioning, stabilizing itself at the designated coordinates. Once the positioning was complete, the beacon core began to operate in overload mode. Its pre-installed super-dense energy block was instantaneously activated, transforming into an enormous torrent of energy that began to warp space. In front of the beacon, visible folds and distortions began to appear in space. A tiny singularity was forcibly created and quickly expanded by the energy, forming a continuously enlarging spatial rift, its edges flickering with dangerous azure electric arcs. During this process, the core of the beacon began to decompose, transforming into a special stable energy field that forcibly smoothed out the most violent energy turbulence, momentarily solidifying the passage structure. Rosalina looked up, her gaze fixed on the main screen, where the monitors outside the bridge had locked onto that area of space. And everyone saw the ominous azure glowing rift appear out of nowhere. Immediately after, the terrified voice of the radar officer echoed through the bridge. Report. Large-scale spatial spectrum distortion detected. The rate of spatial distortion is rising rapidly. The navigation officer also spoke urgently. Coordinates B74, Y93, detecting ultra-high intensity spatial transition signals 10 kilometers above our ship. Something is about to come out. On the bridge of the Night Fragrance, Feng Ling was commanding the damage control team to manage the fire on the ship while trying to reorganize the fleet formation. In one corner of the main tactical screen, the indicators representing abnormal spatial distortion suddenly turned red, with energy readings so high that they briefly overshadowed the residual signals left by the recent dawn attack. Unknown signal detected. What is this? The tactical officer exclaimed, his shock evident despite the blood on his face. The energy pattern had exceeded the assessment limit. Feng Ling's orange-hued pupils contracted, staring intently at the wildly twisting point in space. The rift opened like an eye of a demon, sensing the spatial fluctuations that far exceeded the dawn's, sending chills through the soul. She understood instantly. Rosalina, is this your trump card? On the Black Sail flagship, Jazz's expression was grim due to the loss of the razor and Feng Ling's toughness. When the alarm for the appearance of the spatial rift sounded, he first frowned, then suddenly stood up, looking into the void several dozen kilometers away, his pupils slowly dilating, reflecting the flickering massive electric arcs. What is this? This energy wave caused by forcibly opening space, even as a veteran pirate who has roamed the seas of Zhuangbai for nearly a century. I have never seen anything like it. Farther away, Andre had just led his team to withdraw from the core firepower network of the pirate coalition. The intense fluctuations generated by the spatial rift instantly triggered the highest level alarm on his vehicle. His grayish-white eyes scanned the sensor screen, and when he saw the forcibly opened, highly unstable hyperspace channel, even someone as calm as him couldn't help but frown. Is this the return protocol? Andre clearly had seen it before. Have you finally infiltrated our territory? In the void, a Yolan Sura Lairphone appeared like a wound in the universe, with dangerous arcs of electricity bursting from its edges. Something is coming out. Someone in the public channel gasped, their voice pitch changing. In the next moment, A blinding light erupted. A massive ship's bow, covered in dark steel armor, violently broke through the energy turbulence, its width comparable to that of a small space station. Following that, an 11-kilometer-long colossal ship rudely squeezed out of the fissure, descending into the world. My God, it's a battleship. The channel erupted with gasps. Whose battleship is that? This design is the Imperial Thunderstorm-class battleship. Could it be the Imperial Navy? No, look at the curved blade on that emblem. It looks a bit like the Blood Alliance's. Nonsense. If the Blood Alliance had a battleship, they would have long become the top pirate force in this region. The entire battleship exuded a suffocating sense of oppression. Merely hovering there made all surrounding pirate ships seem incredibly small. Almost simultaneously, Rosanella conducted a fleet-wide broadcast. Everyone evade. This area is officially taken over by our Blood Alliance. The Blood Alliance? My God, is it really the Blood Alliance's battleship? The entire battlefield seemed to have been paused. Everyone was shocked beyond measure. The Duke and the Evil Spirit were sweating profusely. Who would have thought that the Blood Alliance, a force seemingly no different from other pirate groups, was actually the most deeply hidden existence, a pirate organization that managed to acquire an active Imperial assault battleship? 500 kilometers away, at the solitary graveyard base, Lu Ling also witnessed this scene through the light radar of the Death Vortex. Well, I just pulled out a battleship. And you pulled one out too. Do we really need to compete like this, to see who has the bigger one? He then focused his gaze and noticed something crucial. Is this an induction? A jump engine? Can it induce a battleship? In EVE, only flagships and certain warships or cargo ships equipped with hyperspace jump engines can induce. As long as the induction signal is locked, it can jump directly across long light years to that coordinate without going through a stargate, achieving a surprise effect. Meanwhile, Yin Liang unconsciously tightened his grip on the sword hilt. Lu Ling continued to watch, as this had nothing to do with him. Because everything was just part of a larger trap. Chapter 88. Divine Punishment. This Thunderstorm-class battleship, Divine Punishment, dominated the battlefield with absolute superiority, instantly changing the entire course of the battle. Just as everyone was still trying to comprehend what was happening, over 40 swift silver-white streaks of light shot out like a meteor shower tearing through the night from the shadows of the massive ship's flank. They spread out in the air with astonishing synchronization, instantly forming a precise and deadly attack formation. Each streak of light was a sleek, silver-white Iron Rider, with smooth, sharp armor lines and prominent Blood Alliance insignia engraved on the shoulder armor, a sharp crescent blade. Their movements were more agile, and as they swept through the void, a trail of particles glimmered with an eerie dark red hue. The leading machine stood out prominently. Its entire body showcased a matte black blue, bearing the marks of battle with fine scratches and repair signs, radiating an aura of lethal intent. 2 crimson optical lenses on its face emitted long streams of light. And what was most shocking was the execution order emblem, issued by the Imperial Council, boldly displayed on its right shoulder armor. This so-called execution order was a heavy criminal warrant for the assassination of nobles, with a sky-high bounty, a relentless pursuit until death. Yet it did not hide this. Instead, it flaunted it, a blatant act of desecration, a testament to countless returns from the brink of death, while trampling over numerous formidable foes. In the distance, the universe was deep and dark. General, a large number of unknown high-speed machines are approaching. All marked as hostile, assume defensive formation. Prepare for engagement, Andre commanded calmly. The distance of hundreds of kilometers vanished in an instant. A powerful and invisible electronic attack swept through the control core of the Juanbei Knight Regiment. The holographic screen in Andre's cockpit flickered violently. Even the encrypted communications within the squad faced severe interference, becoming intermittent. It was strong electromagnetic directional interference. Locking mechanisms failed. Our systems were suppressed by that battleship. Dense firepower and missiles arrived in advance. The formation of the Juanbei Knight Regiment was forced to scatter, leaving only dozens of trails of light darting through the cosmic void. In the deadly interval of interference, that black-blue machine had cut into the flank of the formation like a ghost, moving so fast that it left only an afterimage. The heavy ship-slicing blade behind it had already deployed, with a dangerous dark red energy aura flowing along the edge, aimed at a Juanbei White Falcon Knight. The White Falcon reacted quickly, instantly drawing its battle blade to block. The two sides separated immediately, and the White Falcon activated its retro thrusters, barely stabilizing its momentum. General, it's a master, at least of silver rank, the deputy commander said solemnly. I'll handle it. Andre's machine engine roared to life as he charged forward. Silver Knights were the elite of the Knight class, figures like Andre included. Before the words fell, dozens of attacks from the enemy surged in. A fierce battle unfolded in the void, crossing dozens of kilometers in mere seconds. At such times, only large-scale destructive missiles could inflict damage on such high-speed moving machines. Andre's White Falcon engine erupted with an unprecedented brilliant blue light, The machine shot forth like a cannonball, instantly tearing through space towards the black-blue machine. The black-blue machine seemed to sense Andre's intent. It abandoned its original target, positioning its slicing blade in front of itself. While two scarlet lights on its face locked onto the incoming White Falcon, the distance between them closed to zero in an instant. There was no probing, no maneuvering. The light sword in Andre's hand hummed. Energy output surged to overload status. The blade glowed an intense white, slashing directly towards the enemy's cockpit. The black-blue armored knight seemed to have anticipated this move long ago. The sword slashed upward, and a dark red energy flow surged